I'm setting up. Cool. I don't think today's gonna be as nasty as was originally thought.
Weather-wise?
Yeah,
It's
it's
supposed to rain all afternoon, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. I was expecting it to have already started though.
Ah.
If you'd asked me this time yesterday, I would have told you about 7 a.m. Not not noon. All right. 606 to Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Jake producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running on this Tuesday morning. The first day of the redistricting session. Yes, a special 20-day session opens up today. Don't know if it's going to take all 20 days to get it done, but every 10 years, the state is tasked, or state legislators are tasked with having to redraw electoral maps around the state. Whether that be congressional, whether it be on a statewide level, judicial, Bessie board, you name it. That's what's going on starting today out at the state capitol. We will have a lot on that as the show wears on. In fact, let me go ahead and read you the rundown so we'll know just how much we're going to be dialed in on the session today. Our guest list starts at 6:52. We're going to be talking about the redistricting session. State Representative Mark Wright coming your way from Covington, Louisiana. Beautiful Covington, Louisiana. Heaven on earth, Covington, Louisiana. Mark Wright is going to join us to talk about the redistricting session. Why? As you saw population shifts over the course of the last decade in Louisiana, St. Tammany Parish grew by a ton, grew by more than 30,000 residents over the course of this time. We're going to talk with Mark about how that changes the way that his district is to be represented. Are we going to see a new representative in St. Tammany, perhaps straddling between St. Tammany and Tangipahoa Parish, pushing everybody in St. Tammany back towards the east a little bit? We'll talk about that with Mark Wright at 8:52. In our 7 o'clock hour, we are going to talk about the March elections. David Zoller with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber is going to join us at 7:15 to talk about. There's an upcoming race in the 5th Metro Council District, 19th Judicial District Court, the 19th JDC, and a couple of other races as well that are specifically on the March 26th ballot. We'll be talking about that with David at 7:15, 7:35. It is the first day of the month. It's also the first Tuesday of the month. Dr. Cade Brumley, our state superintendent of education, joins us the first Tuesday of every month, and we have got a slew of things to talk about, not the least of which shoring up our schools to make sure that hurricanes don't get in the way of education. That's coming your way at 7:35. In our 8 o'clock hour, back to the redistricting session, Daniel Erspamer with the Pelican Institute going to join us at 8:15 to talk about the overall, the 10,000-foot view. What are we looking at as far as potential maps are concerned? What are we looking at as far as potential fights are concerned? Potential horse trading is concerned. Oh, speaking of horse trading in the Capitol. Oh, wait, one more. Congressman Troy Carter at 8:35 for D.C. Current. We got a lot to talk about with him as well. Speaking of horse trading at the Capitol, is the governor about to have to take a huge back seat when it comes to putting his nose in anything involved with legislative business? The governor has said a couple times, hey, he's going to veto if he doesn't like the way the maps come out, if he doesn't think they're fair, if he thinks it's the representatives choosing their electorate as opposed to the other way around. But can he right now? Have you seen the headlines? The governor might be in a bad way right now. And we're going to get into this at 6:35. Headline from WBRZ, facing pressure from lawmakers over state police cover-up. Edwards to meet with black politicians. U.S. attorney tries to help clear the air. Headline from The Advocate, possible deceit by governor in Ronald Greene death warrants attention, House Speaker says. Governor John Bell Edwards has a press conference scheduled for 4:30 this afternoon to address it. Look, I'm not the most alarmist guy out there. I'm not the one that's always yelling where there's smoke, there's fire. There's not always fire where there's smoke. Sometimes there's just smoke. Especially when it comes to the state capitol. Especially when you have so many people moving in so many different directions. But this Ronald Greene case is one that just will not go away. You might recall the case. It's been going on for a couple of years now. State police, basically a number of state police officers are accused of beating a black motorist to death. And there has been stories in recent days about the governor's level of involvement in the case. It's getting to be what did he know and when did he know it. There's also, behind the scenes, a lot of it's not scandal, it's cover-up. We'll talk about that a lot later on in the morning. We got about 60 seconds before we break. I want to welcome Jake back to the show. Welcome back, sir. How are you, man?
I'm doing it.
Wow! Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Somebody gave me the kids' chair.
Got
Look
the
at
bad
this.
Chair. I can tell. But anyway, I'm
Yeah,
doing
welcome
well.
back.
Thank you.
How was Washington Mardi Gras?
Probably the best time of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
That is fantastic, man.
It was something for sure.
Did you see like everybody?
Definitely not everybody, but I saw a lot of people. I met a lot of people.
How many people did you see that have been on this show? Right?
I had a lot to talk about. Let's say that much.
This was what I was telling you before you went up there. This is why it's got to be an annual thing, dude. It's got to be an annual thing. By the way, Kevin from Garrett Graves' office sent me a picture. I'll show you this during the break. It was he got a good shot of you and your girlfriend.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yes, sir. All right. We might, if we have time today, we might unpack a little bit of Washington Mardi Gras and Jake Goes to Washington. That's coming up later on. Got sports coming your way next. Before we hit that break, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. They've got 2 locations, one on Plank Road in Zachary, one on Perkins just east of Bluebonnet. What you get with Complete Collision Center is knowledge, continuing education, a commitment to training, a commitment to knowing what's up with the latest techniques for finding hidden damage, for getting your family back out on the road safely. It's not just about getting your family back on the road. That word safely is of the utmost importance to Doug and his team at Complete Collision Center. 768-9898 is the phone number, 768-9898. If you want to learn more about their certifications, up to and including the iCar Gold Class certification, check them out online at CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your accident be your second. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Too early for that. Check out CompleteCollision.com. Yeah, Kevin sent me this last night. She couldn't be happier, huh?
Oh my god.
I mean,
Dude. We literally slow danced while being
holy crap, that's Michael Bublé!
Yeah! We both slow danced while being serenaded by Michael freaking Bublé, bro.
Best time of my life.
I was
Best time of
concentrating
my
on
life.
YouTube. You know what? Let me text this to you so you can throw it up on the big screen.
Yes.
I'm concentrating on you taking a selfie of you and your girlfriend. I'm like, holy crap, that's Michael Bublé.
Yeah. We'll put it up. We'll throw it up, but yeah.
My bad. Way to bury the lead, Haldane. All right, do I have time to go get my headphones? Minute and a half?
Yeah. Alrighty, people. We'll definitely, hopefully, well, I can't promise definitely, but hopefully we'll have time to cover all this because that was my first Mardi Gras in general, period. Not Mardi Gras, but Mardi Gras ball. Never been to one before, and then, after that it's, I'm dating the queen of the Washington Mardi Gras ball, which is pretty crazy. It was, without question, one of the coolest experiences of my life. But we'll talk about it more later. I'll drop you with that. And as me and Brian just discussed, we got to slow dance while being serenaded by Michael freaking Bublé. So, pretty good weekend. I'll say that much. We'll talk about it more later.
I'm like, who's the dick with the microphone?
One of the greatest singers of this generation. He's pretty good.
When it comes to the crooners, we appreciate Harry Connick Jr., and that's where the list ends. No, he's generational, obviously. But Harry's from New Orleans. We keep it local. Michael Bublé's a freaking Canadian.
He's hilarious.
Oh, is he?
Dude, he's like, when he talks on stage, he's like low-key raunchy.
Really?
It's really fun.
I can see that. Do I?
Ghost on the 22.
Okay.
But yeah, no, he was hilarious.
616 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. It is sports time. Time to talk a little LSU basketball. The Tigers dropped. They plummeted. All the way down to number 25 in the AP rankings. I don't know if that's a fair drop, though. TCU is proving to be really good. In fact, I think they picked up another win last. In fact, I know they picked up another win last night, beating Oklahoma on the road. And they've only got 2 home losses, and one of those is the number 1 Baylor. Anyway, Tigers fall to number 25 in the overall rankings in the AP Top 25. They have dropped 4 of their last 5 games. So I guess the drop was inevitable. But all things considered, when you look at injuries throughout a number of those games, working back through injuries and being on the road in the SEC Big 12 Challenge, as a Tiger fan, you can kind of put it in perspective. Now, you want to talk about get-right games? Tonight's a get-right game. LSU's back home in the PMAC hosting Ole Miss. Rebels are 2-6 in conference right now. However, Ole Miss playing some defense, giving up just 66 points per game. Will Wade says the Tigers are going to have to adjust to that level of defense.
Ole Miss is big. They're physical. They're going to really challenge us with changing defenses. This is going to be one of the first teams we play that changes their defenses quite a bit. So we're going to have to be on point against a variety of different defensive looks. Almost everybody we've played pretty much played straight man and maybe mixed in a 2-3, but they're going to mix in a bunch of different defenses. Their 1-3-1 morphs into a 2-3 or into man. So we need to do a great job.
Run the floor. Usually want to avoid changing defenses, just run the floor. That everything's a fast break. I know that's not where LSU's been this year, but I wouldn't be shocked to see a change in momentum on the offensive side because of that, which could spark a lot of scoring. Back to the injuries for LSU. They've been a major factor for the Tigers. This goes all the way back to the loss of Adam Miller before the season began. Center Efton Reed is the only guy to start all 21 games. Several players still fighting injuries. General Wade says he's hopeful the team that the health will improve as the season wears on, but he's preparing for if it doesn't.
Like we've had some guys that we've been putting out there for major minutes that are banged up. That's just part of it, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, and we got to play through it. I think if we can get everybody healthy, we'll be better off on the backside and back end of things. But at this point, you just don't know if we'll ever get everybody back healthy again.
The good news is for LSU, though, they've played through the roughest part of their conference schedule. I mean, even if they don't get healthy again, they've learned to work through adversity. You've seen the emergence of Sharif O'Neal among a number of other players who have just stepped up. Brandon Murray's stepping up a lot. They're growing at the right time because they're about to hit a part of their conference schedule that isn't as hard as that first chunk. That first chunk was the hardest. And while it was the hardest, it was also not the kindest so far.
We got 10 SEC games left. We got to win quite a few of them, a lot more than we've been winning. We can't keep winning a 50% clip in the league. We got to get to work. Tonight,
8 p.m. in the Maravich Assembly Center, LSU versus Ole Miss. Chris Blair and John Brady will be on the call. Yours truly will be back in studio. Quick break for the Fox Business Report. Coming right back at it on Talk 107.3. Really?
I think that would be a great move.
All right.
Out of the head coaches that are available, yeah. Unless we promote from within, which I'm also okay with.
I'm okay with wherever they go. Continuity is important.
Talk 107.3. I will let him know. Absolutely. Thank you for letting us know. I'll let Brian know. Have a good day. Bye. Kim Mulkey hit 650 wins in D1. That's the fastest for men's or women's for a coach ever.
Is it?
Yeah. She hit 650 recently.
Sunday.
Wins. 650 wins.
All right, cool. I'm not talking about the women because they're off all week. But I can make mention of that for sure. Yep.
was playing those cuts, did you hear any pops?
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was like my headset or not.
Nope. Morning, Christy. Welcome in, boo. Hope you're feeling a little bit better this morning.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Ever have questions about your prescriptions? Even in
Son of a bee.
well, Walgreens now offers a pharmacy chat 24/7, so you can ask an expert about things like
First off, good morning, Troy. I saw your comment. Truth time when the Grambling band played neck, did you STTDV? Yes, but I covered my mouth because her parents were probably watching me.
Yeah.
They were lined up right across from me.
Yeah.
So I respectfully partied.
Respectfully.
Yes.
Respectfully.
Because, I'm also representing them.
Yes.
I gotta be professional, but, Saturday, a little looser. Just a little.
Grambling was their win. Thursday?
Saturday.
Saturday?
All three. It was Grambling, Southern, and LSU.
Bro, Garrett brought the heat.
It was awesome. And as a Tiger Band alumnus myself, that was a treat to see a lot of my friends, actually.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Yeah, you got any more questions, you just let me know.
That was it? Jeez, criminies. All right. 623 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolls right along. Diving back into it in just a second. I do have to tell you about the folks over at Go Slim Nutrition. GEAUX SlimBR.com is the website. Go Slim BR, spelled the proper Cajun way. 763-9600 is the phone number. 763-9600. Now's the time for a jumpstart plan, y'all. Look, there's never a time on the calendar in South Louisiana. There's never a time to go on a diet. But there's never a time to not start healthier lifestyle choices, and there's no better way than a jumpstart plan over at Go Slim Nutrition. Swing by. They're on Bluebonnet at Perkins, right next door to Rouse's. Talk with Vicky. Talk with her team. Talk about how it's not just about the food. They've got the bars, the shakes, the meals. They've got the cereal. It's just it's all good food, but you can get diet food anywhere. What it comes down to is the weekly weigh-in, the counseling. It's basically diet coaching, and it's so much more than what you just what you eat. You'll go over water intake. You'll go over exercise. You'll go over into not just what you eat, but when you eat it. It's really thorough. And it's really all about accountability. Jumpstart plans are available right now. Look, we got Lent coming up, which means we got crawfish season coming up, which means just a ton of boiled crawfish and beer, right? You got to get ahead of that. I mean, I know it's king cake time right now, but you got to get ahead of that. There's no good time on the calendar in Louisiana for a diet, but there's no bad time to adopt better lifestyle choices. GEAUX SlimBR.com, 763-9600 is the phone number. All right, we're going to get back into the redistricting session in just a minute, but Jake, I got to bring you back in here for just a minute. I was telling you about the picture that Kevin sent me.
Yes.
And I didn't even notice at the time. If you can throw this up on the big screen, if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll be able to see this.
Hold on one sec.
Yeah. I didn't even notice it at the time. I kind of buried the lead on the picture.
Yeah.
I was like, I just see you and your
small
girlfriend.
detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and your girlfriend are like super duper happy. And I noticed you're taking a selfie. And then when I really looked at the picture, I was like, there's a guy behind y'all with a microphone.
Yeah.
It's Michael Bublé!
Michael freaking Bublé.
How did I not see that? Originally I'm like, who's the you-know-what with a microphone? But
Yeah. Not a bad way to spend the weekend. I was being serenaded while slow dancing with my girlfriend by
Michael Bublé.
yeah, pretty good.
Okay,
singer.
Michael Bublé, as it were.
Bubbly, yes.
So you throw that picture up on the screen. So the redistricting session begins today, and it's going to be a busy one. Remaking maps throughout the state. Up. Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry. If you're watching us on YouTube, you see what's going on. There's a.
Oh, come on.
I tell you what, we got to get back to it because we got to stick with. We'll get to it during the break.
Yeah.
A number of proposed maps are out there, looking at how Louisiana is going to be broken down district by district. Session begins today. It's a 20-day long session. House and Senate have to agree on new boundaries for the legislature, the Public Service Commission, state courts, and the 6 U.S. congressional seats. Our news partners over at Louisiana Radio Network caught up with Bernie Pincinette. He's a longtime political analyst. He believes the U.S. House districts are going to be addressed right up front.
I think the legislature's probably at this point in time decided let's do that first. Why? Because if there's no agreement on it and the governor vetoes it, they would have time to override or not override a veto.
Now, the governor and a number of, the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus and a number of black leaders throughout the state say that Louisiana needs to have a second majority-minority district. That's liable to be fuel for some disagreements within the Capitol. You're going to be hard-pressed to see that carved out. The argument up until now has been if you are representative of 33% of the population, how are you only representative of one particular district within the House, within the U.S. House? The simple answer to that is if you're 33% of every population, you're 33%, meaning that you're not a majority. So in order to carve out a majority-minority district, you're going to have to carve things out on the map. That's gerrymandering, and that's what they're trying to avoid have happen. Pincinette says better to get that settled early on before moving on to the more local matters like redrawing in-state House and Senate boundaries.
That'll be another battle, and it's a battle for survival for some of them because you can be redistricted out of where you live and all the ramifications related to that.
Those are the battles that I'm most interested in. Oh, by the way, I think when it all comes down to it, trying to carve up the U.S. House, trying to carve up our 6 congressional seats, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a way to draw a map that's going to create a second majority-minority district. It's going to be difficult. But when it comes down to it, the races, the individual districts that are going to be most at stake are going to be matters of survival for individual congresspersons, for individual legislators. A number of districts and areas surrounding cities like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Lafayette are currently represented by African-American members. Those districts, however, have lost population, and they're going to have to be redrawn. So if you're looking at majority-minority districts, is your focus on the big prize of the U.S. Congress or on protecting what's going on within the state legislature? A number of members could be losing their seats this time around. District lines are going to have to be moved away from where they reside. Bernie Pincinette tells Louisiana Radio Network redistricting is great political theater that only comes around once a decade.
And they're always interesting, they're always divisive, and they're always eventually comes to a peaceful ending because they have no other choice.
Only problem is you don't know what that ending is until a few months from now. Because self-preservation could mean foregoing your agenda for the regular session. What are you going to have to give up later to get now? That's the part that I'm most interested in. That's the part that I find intriguing. I also find it intriguing what the governor's role is going to be, considering everything that he's looking at. Not just with population shifts, but we'll go right back to it. The headline from WBRZ, facing pressure from lawmakers over state police cover-up, Edwards to meet with black politicians, U.S. attorney tries to help clear the air. How active will the governor be able to be if every time he pokes his head out, someone turns around and says, don't you have enough to deal with? We'll get into that next. Right now, we're going to check news, traffic, weather. That's all coming your way right here on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. Do what? Whoa. Okay. That's what happened at Southern yesterday. Yeah.
ULM political science professor Dr. Joshua Stockley says while the text message from Superintendent Kevin Reeves doesn't name Ronald Green, only that a motorist died in police custody, there's no evidence of a cover-up at this point. Stockley says Edwards owes the black community an explanation on why it appears he ignored the incident while campaigning for a second term.
I think this community deserves to know what exactly he meant
Edwards is meeting with the Legislative Black Caucus this afternoon. I'm Brooke Thorrington.
Hey.
There you go, YouTube. There's me,
There you
my
go.
girlfriend, and Michael Bublé. Not exactly the best picture of her, but she's got a million of good ones, so she's fine.
What are you kidding me? She looks so happy.
She is very happy.
Shut up, man.
Yeah, that was... I don't think a Mardi Gras ball will ever get better than that.
No, it's tough.
I don't
Washington.
think it can be.
Yeah. All right, let me hop in. Morning, Renee, Eric, Troy. Morning, Robert. Bridge traffic. Actually, I'll have traffic in just a minute. What do you got on the bridge? I'm not showing any slowdowns on the bridge. What you got? Morning, Clinton.
Action on the Mississippi River Bridge. Now we have backup pretty much the length of the bridge on the westbound side due to an accident that's just out of view of the traffic cameras. But what you need to know, there's definitely a
Oh, crap. There it is. Yeah. I'm looking at it now.
What?
Bridge traffic. Why is that not on Google Maps? If you're headed westbound, go ahead and take the old bridge. Actually, you know what? If you're coming in from Livingston Parish, you might want to hop off at Airline to take the old bridge.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $100 instant savings with the purchase of 4 eligible Bridgestone or Firestone tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more. Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto. When you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get great savings and round-the-clock protection, which is as beautiful as looking your firstborn child in the eyes for the first time. Well, that's a bit much. Maybe it's more like looking your second-born child in the eyes for like the third or fourth time. Point being, the savings and round-the-clock protection are really, really magical. Forced Metaphors, presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Watching TaxSlayer calculate your refund feels like climbing to the apex of a roller coaster. And flying down the tracks. And maximum refund.
Okay.
Start for free and get your guaranteed maximum refund. TaxSlayer. File fearlessly.
Tackling the top stories of the day. Brian Kilmeade, weekday morning from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk.
Clouds are rolling in ahead of a warm front this morning. Temperatures will climb into the mid-60s this afternoon as showers spark up along that warm
I'm going to have to run upstairs during the next break.
early from south to north in those areas.
So if you were to, like, usually it's every year, you have a show at the ball, but it's only on Saturday. Where are you situated?
Garrett Graves' suite was where we've only done this once. We did it once, and then the pandemic hit, so they didn't have it in 2020.
Okay.
So
You did it on Saturday or Thursday?
Thursday, Friday.
Okay. Okay.
We were at the hotel across the street on Thursday, and then in Garrett Graves' suite on Friday, and then I actually came home Saturday. I didn't stick around for the ball.
Fair enough. It's very formal.
636 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We got a lot of ground to cover in this segment, and time is short, so we're going to keep it moving. Hey, first of all, I want to go back to our sports for just a minute. Not really the sports we were covering from last night. LSU women's basketball does not have a game this week. They won't play again until next Monday night when they'll take on Ole Miss. But and I want to thank the caller who called in during an earlier break. LSU beat Kentucky last Sunday, and they didn't just beat Kentucky last Sunday. Apparently, that was Kim Mulkey's 650th win, and she is the fastest in D1 history to get to 650 wins. So pretty remarkable right there.
Men's or women's, actually.
Yeah. Yep. That's what the SEC Network was saying. Kim Mulkey is the fastest coach in men's or women's D1 basketball history to 650 career wins. So nicely done, Kim Mulkey. And they'll be back at it 1 week from yesterday. So this coming Monday, they'll be taking on Ole Miss right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Southern University is back on campus today. Classes will resume today. You heard the story in CBS News. It's not often you hear about Southern University in CBS News. You heard the story in CBS News. 6 different HBCUs receiving bomb threats yesterday. Caused a closure of the campus. All clear was given around 1 p.m. And they'll be back at it today. This is the second, I understand, bomb threat this month at different HBCUs. Neither one has resulted in anything, has turned up anything as a result. All right. We'll get more in the redistricting session in our next segment. Mark Wright, State Representative Mark Wright from Covington is going to join us. Right now, though, let's talk about the governor's looking at. From WBRZ, one of Louisiana's top lawmakers wants to investigate whether Governor John Bel Edwards helped cover up Ronald Green's death in Louisiana State Police custody. House Speaker Clay Schechtner released a statement Monday in response to a recent report from the Associated Press claiming that Governor Edwards received a text from then LSP Superintendent Kevin Reed hours after Green's death saying the man died after a violent, lengthy struggle with troopers. The text conflicted with what the agency said to Green's family, who were told that he died in a car crash. Quote, the revelations detailed by the Associated Press regarding Governor Edwards' involvement in the alleged cover-up in the cause of death of Ronald Green are greatly disturbing, Schechtner said. This would demonstrate gross misconduct and the highest level of deceit on behalf of the governor and others. Now, Green, I said it was over 2 years. We're actually closing in on 3 years. Green died after a high-speed pursuit through the Monroe area in May of 2019. Though police told Green's family he died from injuries sustained in a crash during the chase, body camera video leaked 2 years later showed Green was alive when troopers pulled him from his vehicle after the chase. That footage showed troopers beating, tasing, and dragging a handcuffed Green by his legs. Now, so many people have been looking for so many answers on so many levels with this case. Because you got to remember, we're talking about police and a black man's death. And over the course of the last, 7, 8 years, that has been a hot topic. So now the conversation is shifting to what did the governor know and when did he know it? Oh, by the way, if you're curious about the message that was sent from Kevin Reeves to the governor, according to the Advocate, they have it, the way it reads on the Advocate's website, Edwards received word of Green's death in a text message from Reed on May 10th, 2019. Quote, good morning, and FYI, the story quoted Reeves' message as saying, back to the quote, early this morning, troopers attempted to stop a vehicle in Ouachita Parish. The driver fled through 2 parishes in excess of 110 miles per hour, eventually crashing. Troopers attempted to place the driver under arrest, but a violent, lengthy struggle took place. Now, what you'll notice missing from the part that's in quotes is Ronald Green's name. Oh, back to the message. It says, after some time struggling with the suspect, troopers were joined by a Union Parish deputy who were able to take the suspect into custody. The suspect remained combative but became unresponsive shortly before EMS arrived. I mean, that is a very, very flowery way of putting things. But again, no mention of Ronald Green by name there. No matter where you're getting the story from, it's not spelling out to look pretty good, to look very good for the governor. The governor's office put out a statement. That statement reads, the governor first learned of the serious allegations against Louisiana State Police surrounding the arrest and death of Mr. Ronald Green in September of 2020. Right there, let's stop right there. Because the text message that we just read, from Kevin Reeves said, early this morning, troopers, and the text message was sent on May 10th, 2019. Early this morning, troopers attempted to stop a vehicle in Ouachita Parish. The driver fled through 2 parishes in excess of 110 miles per hour, eventually crashing. Troopers attempted to place the driver under arrest, but a violent, lengthy struggle took place. After some time struggling with the suspect, troopers were joined by a Union Parish deputy who were able to take the suspect into custody. EMS was summoned to assess the suspect's injuries. The suspect remained combative, but became unresponsive shortly before EMS arrived. The suspect was later pronounced dead at the hospital. We are investigating the suspect's death. So all through that text message, which I just read verbatim, not just the pull quotes, all through that, you were hearing about someone referred to as the suspect. But it's a suspect who died in police custody. At no point did they say Ronald Green in that text message. So the governor's statement says, the governor first learned of the serious allegations against Louisiana State Police surrounding the arrest and death of Mr. Ronald Green in September of 2020. So from May of 2019 until September of 2020, what we're looking at here is the suspect versus Ronald Green. Is that dog hunt? Was there another suspect who was in a crash at 110 miles per hour? Was there another suspect that was the source of countless, well, I shouldn't say countless, you could put a finite number on anything, the source of multiple investigative reports, the source of having turnover at state police, people resigning and or being let go because of the situation? Back to the governor's statement. He had previously been notified of the arrest and death of an unnamed individual in May of 2019 by then Louisiana State Police Superintendent Colonel Kevin Reeves. It is standard practice for the head of LSP to notify the governor of incidents where a person dies in custody. He did not see nor was aware of the videos of the arrest until much later in October of 2020. From the moment the governor learned of the allegations and saw the videos, he has consistently said that the actions of the officers in the videos were disturbing and unacceptable, and that the matter should be fully investigated by federal and state authorities. Neither the governor nor anyone in the governor's staff has ever intervened or interfered in any criminal investigation, including the investigation into Mr. Green's death. The Legislative Black Caucus has requested to meet with the governor about the serious allegations in the Associated Press article, and that meeting will take place tomorrow afternoon, that meeting this afternoon. He will speak to and take questions from the media after that meeting. I've read 3 different articles on the same story so far, and I keep coming back around to the same thing. If you're alerted to the whole situation minus names in May of 2019, and then you add names a year and a half later, it's kind of a hard sell to say, yeah, I had no idea this was that. It's kind of a hard sell to say, oh, that's the guy you were talking about? Oh, that one? Oh, my bad. I had no idea this was that. I'm going to be interested to hear what the governor has to say this afternoon, to be sure. I'm also going to be interested to hear how this plays out among the Legislative Black Caucus. Because at the heart of this, at the root of this, we can't get away from the fact that there is a dead person going on 2.5, almost moving past 2.5 towards 3 years now. Put a button on that for right now. When we come back, we got a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about redistricting. State Representative Mark Wright from Covington is going to join us next here on Talk 107.3. Do we have 3 minutes of spots here, or is it going to kick back a minute for me to have... Okay. I'll be right back. Oh, that's sweet.
Morning, Mark. How are you? Doing pretty good. We're going to be live with you in about 2.5 minutes. See you then, okay?
I don't know why I bet on under out west. $75-64. So they did get the over. Well, I'm glad I laid off of that one.
So a friend of mine finally got me into sports betting.
Yeah.
Never really been into it, just because I don't know.
It's legal. It's here. Everybody's
Yeah,
talking about it.
it's finally legal and everyone's doing it. And plus, he got this really good deal where if he refers somebody and I spend $10 on bets,
Yeah.
we both get $100 free
Nice.
for bets. And because I was a first-time user, one of the bets that I was able to make was I could bet on the Super Bowl, either Bengals or Rams win.
Mm-hmm.
Either one, it was plus 5,600. Whoever I picked, didn't matter who.
Yeah.
And as much as I wanted to bet on the Bengals, the Rams have a counter to literally everything they have. Aaron
No, they
Donald
don't.
against that Swiss cheese O-line?
That's what everybody said about the Chiefs' defense against that O-line.
Yeah.
Look, I still don't know who I'm going to place my money on in that game. I
would
Right
be happier
now-
if the
right-
Bengals won.
yeah.
But
Right now, I'm hard pressed to bet against Joe Burrow.
absolutely. I want the Bengals to win, but I can't in good conscience bet for the Bengals when I could be winning.
That's
the
what
Swiss.
I said the exact same thing last week.
Ugh.
They were 7.5 point dogs last week
Yeah.
and won. They're 4-point dogs right now, and that number's going to go down over 2 weeks.
So you watched the game, right?
Most of it, yeah.
Holy smokes. Who would have thought? You draft Jamar Chase and you go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
You win the AFC.
yeah.
You beat the first seed. You beat the Chiefs. They have fast-tracked their ascent to the top,
Yep.
without question.
All right. .652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So later on today, a special session will convene at the state legislature, 20 days long, and the mission is to map out the state. They got to do this every 10 years. It is the redistricting session. Joining us now to talk about it is State Representative Mark Wright from Covington. Mark, welcome back. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
No, always glad to have you on here. Always glad to chat a little bit, especially just to touch base with the home, with the motherland of St. Tammany Parish in the piney woods of Covington. Love to get back.
I love it.
Yes, sir. All right. 20 days, putting out new maps for U.S. Congress, all the state congressional districts and Senate districts, and then the judicial and everything else that falls on y'all's plate. What can we expect to see over the next 3 weeks?
So I think you're going to see a lot of hurry up and wait among most representatives and senators. You're going to have the committees doing a lot of work, a lot of hearing. I mean, the congressional maps are clearly, sort of the big part of the work that has to be done over the next 20 days. The governor has come out and said he's going to veto if he doesn't get a certain map. I mean, you've got to deal with, federal guidelines and things like that for voting rights and stuff. So it gets really tricky. Mm-hmm. Then you also have the House and Senate on each side. And I've never been in this session, but my understanding is, the Senate tends to respect what the House does to its own maps and vice versa when it comes to Senate maps. So I don't think that one takes as much work or time, because we've had a lot of opportunity to sort of look at numbers and think through potential lines drawn on a map. But I think it's all going to be about, trying to get the right congressional maps to do what we need to do.
How much wiggle room is there without completely gerrymandering? Because I know there's supposed to be a push by the Black Legislative Caucus to create 2 majority-minority districts in the U.S. Congress. When you look at a map of Louisiana, I don't see how this gets done without, having a congressional district look like an octopus.
No, I mean, I think you're right, and it's sort of the problem when you take a state like Louisiana. You look at the broad aggregate numbers on the state level. Mm-hmm. Some people can make statements, kind of like what I think the governor has, and others. There should be these 2 districts. But the reality is you've got to put those lines on a map, and you have to have some nature of it being a compact districts. You have to have some sort of shared, culture, community, whatever you want to call it. And that's where it gets really difficult. I mean, when you think back, 10 years ago, we drew the current maps. It was pre-cleared by the Justice Department for the Obama administration. I think, it's hard to not look back and say, well, what was wrong with them when they were last drawn? I'm not on the committee. I'm not leading it, thank God, honestly. This is a difficult situation. The Speaker and Representative Stefanski on our end have put in a ton of work. I feel very confident in what they'll do at the end of the day. But, yeah, I mean, it's just not easy. Everybody's got a different interpretation of what it should look like.
Yeah, and from 10 years ago till now, we've seen a number of shifts in population, growth in some areas, and decreasing in other areas. Your district is one that has grown. The North Shore has picked up over 30,000 residents over the last 10 years. What's the likelihood that we see movement around St. Tammany Parish when it comes to added representation?
Yeah, so that's been the thing that, we have focused on, at least over here in the St. Tammany delegation, since we got elected. So the district I represent, 77, is now the largest House district in the state. It has over 30% increased registered voter numbers. So, I mean, basically, we got to cut down 30% of the district to become more like an average House district. And the only catch with, as far as getting extra representation in St. Tammany, is if you look around the other House districts, they have not grown as much. So it's been all in the west of Covington area, going into Beatico, and then going into Tangipahoa. So I'm sure you're familiar with that Beatico area. So basically, the second or third biggest district, as I understand it, is my colleague Bill Wheat, whose district is right next door to 77, but he's in Tangipahoa. So I think what you'll see is you'll probably see more like half of a district come in the St. Tammany. You know, for example, one of my colleagues represents 3 parishes going into Tangipahoa and Washington, and so it's very possible that that district will no longer be in other parishes. It will come in all into St. Tammany. My colleagues and I, who are in St. Tammany, have kind of looked at maps and suggested lines that could be drawn that everybody agrees would be a good step forward. So let me just say this. I think as far as the St. Tammany delegation, we're fairly united about what we'd like to see. But at the end of the day, until you see that map that's drawn, that bill that's drawn, we really won't know exactly where it is.
The thought that Beatico would have its own representation is just astounding to me, having grown up down there. I'm not saying whether or not I participated in this, but dudes would go drag race up 1085 because nobody was around.
No, I know. It's pretty crazy. I mean, I think I told you I didn't grow up in Covington, but my grandfather, moved there when I was born. So I came a lot of time. And, there was just nothing forever. 77 that I represent was into 2 other parishes at one point, too. So you're right. It's grown tremendously. I mean, and look, it's going to continue. That's the other thing you got to keep in mind with this stuff is you can anticipate future growth to a certain extent. So you can draw lines that allow a little growth. So that's something we need to think about as well.
Before I get you out of here, we're also looking at regrowth, or I shouldn't say regrowth, because after Katrina, New Orleans lost a lot of representation. Are we going to see some level of re-implementation of that representation as they picked up over 40,000 residents in 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, that's my understanding. I have not been involved with drawing their lines, but yeah, some of the population has come back, so they will see, greater representation, whether it's a full district or half or how it will work out, we'll see. But that's clearly, a highlighted populated area. So I can imagine that delegation is going to make sure, in their voting to make sure that there's, the lines are drawn in a way that New Orleans has greater representation.
He is State Representative Mark Wright from Covington. We will check back in as the session comes near a close. Thank you so much for hopping on board, sir.
You got it, sir. Appreciate it. Take care.
Always. You too. We're late for news. Here we go. Hey, hit it right on it. Bro. Dummy Line Road. That's Dummy Line. Was it Dummy Line or is it Bootlegger that runs through Beatico? Oh, crap. There's Bootlegger Road and there's Dummy Line Road. Bellini lived off Dummy Line, I thought. I think Dummy Line's the one that runs through Beatico. Let me pull up a map. That would be smart. Dummy Line Road. Dummy Line. Dummyline. Yeah, Dummy Line Road would run right through Beatico. Yeah, it is. Actually, know what? No. Okay, Dummy Line would run you up to Brewster Road. Brewster Road runs into Beatico. Brewster Road goes all the way to, that should be 1085 right there. That is 1085. 1085 connected, You can get all the way down to Highway 22 and then go back into Madisonville from there. I'm thinking about out loud why. What I'm thinking about out loud is nobody cares. Eric says I doubted them against the Bills. Oh, talking about the Bengals. Wait,
The Chiefs.
Chiefs played the Bills. Yeah.
Bills. I mean, it was literally a coin toss. They better change the overtime rule after that.
Why? Overtime rule worked just fine over the weekend. Look, I know I'm trolling everyone when I say this.
Yeah.
But play defense.
Yeah, play defense.
Play
but, like,
defense.
I don't know, man. Like, give both offenses a chance. I don't think it's fair that, like, it's literally decided on a coin toss, and if they score a touchdown,
I mean, I don't think it's fair that everyone doesn't get a trophy.
It's clear this conversation is not going to go.
I know.
Brian.
I know. That's the whole point.
We'll agree to disagree.
Yeah. In all seriousness, the rules for overtime were written in a time where defense ruled the day. The
100%.
offense rules the day now.
Yeah.
So,
The passing game and everything.
did I see the crazy parlay bet where the guy won $500,000? Yes.
$500K.
He correctly picked the score to both games last weekend on a $20 bet, won $500,000.
Wow.
He had 27-24 Bengals and 20-17 Rams on a $20 bet, and it paid him $500.
That's some life-changing money right there.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Morning, Debbie. Morning, Christian. Eric says, you know good and well if that white governor had an R behind his name, this would be different. See, yeah, it would be. And that there's a part of me that says, was the governor keeping this quiet just to keep respect for law enforcement? Like 3 years ago, we were at a time where defund the police was the word of the day. Like that sentiment has since subsided. But we can't lose our place in time to realize that the defund the police sentiment, the overwhelming number of protests and riots and looting Foot Lockers because you believe there's no justice. Like we're not that far removed from that.
Have you done Hope yet?
No, I got it coming up right here.
Okay. Hope and then Mathern's.
Got you. Galen says coverage would be 24/7 on CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, etc. Louisiana would be a racist Republican stronghold and would become a campaign slogan for the midterms. I don't think anyone's going to pay attention to Louisiana on that level. We definitely get more attention for it, but Yep. $7:05. Coming up on 7:06 to Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. We got a busy hour for you. We're going to talk about March elections. March 26th, there are a number of elections here in Baton Rouge. Number of elections statewide is dwindling, though. We'll have more on that in the outside in. David Zoller from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber is going to join us to talk about it. Then at 7:35, Dr. Cade Brumley, our state's Superintendent of Education, going to hop on board. There's a number of topics there, not the least of which shoring up our education amidst hurricanes. Dr. Brumley's got a plan. We'll talk about that then. Going to get into top stories and trending here in just a little bit, but I do have to remind you about the folks over at Rise LA, Louisiana's The Way to Work. With Rise LA, we all rise together. March 22nd is the big date. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Renaissance Hotel in Baton Rouge. That is on Bluebonnet Boulevard. If you want to register for this, visit risela.biz. What are you registering for? Well, we're in a workforce crisis right now. A number of businesses, especially small businesses, are struggling to stay afloat. What's more, a number of low to middle income workers are struggling to keep from drowning. There's a way out of this for all parties involved. Fred Keller is the founder and chair of Cascade Engineering. He changed the way his company did business. He moved over 800 employees off of welfare while increasing profits. These two things are not mutually exclusive. We can all rise together. Visit risela.biz, risela.biz. March 22nd is the big conference. If you go to risela.biz, you'll also learn about the executive focus groups that are going to be happening later on this month, February 22nd and 23rd. You can call 355-0702 or register online at risela.biz. Rise LA, we all rise together. All right, time for top stories and trending. Let's get it. Back to school at Southern University today. Campus was shut down early yesterday morning amid a series of reported threats at historically black colleges across the country. A message sent out by the university shortly before 7 a.m. said the Baton Rouge campus was placed on lockdown. Classes were canceled. Now, they gave the all clear shortly before 1 p.m., but left the campus closed for the rest of the day. A statement from the university said, normal operations, normal classes are back at it as of today. Now, the threat, and you heard about this in CBS News, the threat was one of at least 6 sent to HBCU campuses early Monday. Similar reports were made to Howard University, Bethune-Cookman, Albany State, Bowie State, and Delaware State University. And, by the way, this is the second time this year. Well, I guess yesterday was January 31st, so this was the second time in January that we saw threats like this. At least 3 HBCUs were similarly targeted on January 3rd. Nothing was found on any of those campuses. It doesn't make sense to threaten a college campus on January 3rd. There's nobody there. Nonetheless, the threats were made and investigated. A 22-year-old was killed in a 3-car pileup at the intersection of Burbank and Ben-Hur on Sunday night. BRPD said a car driven by 22-year-old Justin Fields turned from Burbank Drive onto Ben-Hur around 8:06 p.m. Officers said a truck hit the front end of the car, pushing it into another vehicle. Fields was taken to a hospital where he later died. Officers said speeding is believed to be a factor in the crash. Police have made an arrest in a midday shooting that killed a teenager earlier this month. BRPD officers arrested 35-year-old Cleveland Eli early Monday afternoon for the killing of 14-year-old Dion Williams. Williams was shot multiple times in the parking lot of the Save More Market on Lobdell. A spokesperson for the police department said Eli shot Williams because he was bullying a member of Eli's family. The victim was shot and killed, had been possibly bullying the other juvenile and took action into his own hands, said Elgene McNeely with BRPD. Arrest documents said Eli admitted to shooting Williams with an AK-47, but Eli told police Williams was also armed during that altercation. Not glossing over the AK-47 part of that. Teenagers and AK-47s. Number 2, where are we at here? Oh, yes. Grabbing this one from The Advocate. If a man who worked for a Highland Road couple argues that his cousin coerced his involvement in the couple's 2015 slaying, then the jury will be told that coercion cannot be used as a murder defense. This was decided yesterday by State District Judge Tiffany Foxworth Roberts. This is over the ejection of Ernesto Lorena Alonso's attorney. This is about the DePlanche case. Jury selection began yesterday at Alonso's first-degree murder trial in the killing of Dennis Bubby DePlanche and Suzanne DePlanche. They were killed in 2015. Alonso's cousin, Frank Garcia of Hollywood, Florida, pleaded guilty in September to 2 counts of manslaughter, was sentenced to 30 years behind bars. Alonso's attorney, Dwight Dosky, indicated yesterday that Alonso, who did landscaping work for the DePlanches, lived on another property owned by them, will testify in his own defense. Going to be a busy day for Governor John Bell Edwards. Yes, you've got the redistricting session going on, but more than that, the Ronald Green case continues to be a pressing matter. One of Louisiana's top lawmakers wants to investigate whether or not Governor John Bell Edwards helped cover up Ronald Green's death in state police custody. We're talking about House Speaker Clay Schexnayder. He released a statement yesterday in response to recent reports from the Associated Press claiming that Governor Edwards received a text from then LSP Superintendent Kevin Reeves hours after Green's death, saying the man died after a violent, lengthy struggle with troopers. Now, the text message itself never mentioned Ronald Green by name. Green was mentioned by name over a year and a half later. The governor will meet with the Legislative Black Caucus today, a number of other black leaders as well, and then we'll have a press conference at 4:30. We will have a ton of that audio from that press conference right here on the show tomorrow morning. Those are your top stories. Here's a look at what's trending this morning. Sports wagering got off to a big start over the weekend. Mobile sports wagering got off to a big start over the weekend. No full-on numbers just yet, but State Gaming Control Board Chairman Ronnie John says when you compare activity for the inaugural weekend to other states, Louisiana, the way LRN reported this, the way the Louisiana Radio Network reported this, Louisiana, not an underdog. Nope, we're holding our own. Quote, on a per capita basis, eligible over 21-year-old bettors, we did see significantly better than the state of New York did when they rolled out a few weeks ago. You had on Friday, the Pelicans were playing. On Saturday, LSU was playing in the SEC Big 12 Challenge. And then the conference championships on games were on Sunday. You just had a huge sports weekend. Perfect time to roll this out. And it's only getting ramped up before Super Bowl Sunday, coming up less than 2 weeks from right now. 713 Talk 107.3 FM. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, March 26 elections. We're talking about them with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber next. You suck on my thorns. He withheld this from the news because he needed the black vote to win, and this news would have cooled their turnout at the polls. Yes. Oh, see, this is why it's so intriguing. This is just so multifaceted. And I hate to use the word intriguing when talking about a dead guy, but yes, it would have cooled the black vote at the polls, for sure. And we'd be talking about Governor Risponi right now. That's true. But what's also true is the anti-police sentiment was at an all-time high at this time. You can't have one without the other and say, did he also perhaps prevent riots? I don't know, Galen. There's so much going on. How many times do we hear in the Democratic media when a nobody Republican makes a stupid statement and they hammer that in the news cycle? We'd hear it mentioned, yes. At the end of the day, those who are in the U.S. Capitol make the most news. Byron says, bomb threats in general don't make sense to me. I've always thought that too. Why would you call it a threat? Did they remove the door on Eagle 98.1? Because I can hear Condon all the way down here.
They might as well have. I guarantee that door's closed.
Of course it's closed. And the glass door's closed, too.
Yeah, exactly.
We got two doors. 7:15 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. All right. We'll dive back into redistricting later on. Right now, though, I want to shift the focus to what's coming up at the end of next month, and those are a number of elections within our particular area. Joining us now to talk about that is the Manager of Governmental Affairs for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. He's David Zoller. We welcome him back to the show. David, how are you, sir?
Good, Brian. How are you this morning?
I'm doing very well this morning. Going to be a busy day.
Very.
Yes. Special session is always... It's always a lot of fun because there's, especially when it's before the regular session. If there's a special session after the regular session, there's just burnout. But when it's before the regular session, it's like the first day of school before the first day of school.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. You might see everybody get a little annoyed going into the regular with what happens out of this, so it'll make the regular session even more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. But special session is going to map out where our different voting districts are, and those voting districts lead us to the polls, and that's what we're talking about today is what's going to be going on. March 26th, we've got our spring elections. There are a couple of different races I want to take a look at. Actually, while we're talking about the state legislature, let's talk about State Representative District 101. What are we looking at there?
Yeah, you got a seat to fill with Ted James stepping away to take the role in the SBA. It's caused a special election. All three of our elections this spring are special. We weren't scheduled to have any local elections this spring, so we got three of them on our docket instead. So you got school board member Don Collins is going to be running to replace him, along with Terry Abair and former Vanessa LaFleur, who formerly worked at the Department of Revenue. So you have two candidates who've run and won for office, or well, one candidate who's run and won for office, and another one who's been highly involved in state government and the legislative process. So it's shaping up to be a very interesting race for that 101 seat, filling a seat for somebody who was a dynamic force for the community in the legislature. So that's going to be an important race to watch for our region and what's going forward.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I don't know if Ted James is going to endorse anyone in the race or if he has endorsed anyone in the race, but I would have to imagine wherever he throws his weight is going to rule the day here, would it not?
Yes, and he endorsed Vanessa LaFleur
Okay.
at his announcement when he was announcing he was stepping aside at the beginning of January.
So what is Vanessa LaFleur's background again?
She's worked for the Department of Revenue for a number of years before stepping aside at the beginning of last year.
State District 101 is an interesting one. It's my district. I happen to live in Sherwood Forest, and that's Ted James is my representative. It's one that is going to see a lot of change in the very near future because of Amazon. Is that going to change the way the district needs to be represented? I guess is the question I'm asking.
It's all how the district changes with redistricting too. You got to throw in there. I mean, the district might not look the same as it does today after they finish the redistricting session, but this is still an election on how the district was previously drawn. So this ties into both the special session we're starting this evening, and this race. So it'll be interesting to see how the people of the district vote on this. But yeah, it could have drastic ramifications moving forward on what this district looks like.
So qualifying's over with. These three candidates are the three that are going to be on the ballot. There's no room for anybody else to get in at this point. Do you see a runoff in this one, or does it look like we'll see a clear winner?
I mean, I'd have to assume you have Vanessa LaFleur with Ted James's backing and Don Collins, who ran for Metro Council last year and is currently serving on the school board. So I think you have two strong candidates right there that'll more than likely pull enough of votes to keep either from getting enough over 50, but I think both of them are going to try to do it.
If Don Collins were to win this, we'd be looking at another special election, wouldn't we?
No, I don't think we would be because school board elections are this fall, so you'd fill a seat in the interim.
Okay, so it would just be an appointee at that point.
Yeah.
Speaking of appointees and interim posts, let's move over to Metro Council District 5. What are we looking at there?
Yeah, you have Darrell Hurst, who was the recent appointment to fill Erica Green's former council seat that he now sits on. And then he's also being challenged by another school board member, Darius Lannis, and then also Daniel Bengal, who's run for a number of offices in the past. So you have another seat this time with three candidates who have prior election experience, have done well in their prior elections, who are all back up for it. So another seat, you're very likely going to see a runoff.
Oh, I have no doubt. The runoff in this one is I'm a lot more certain of that. However, Darrell Hurst, does Darrell Hurst have an unfair advantage in this, in that he's holding the seat on an interim basis? Does that not give him a leg up on the others?
It gives him a slight advantage, but it also forces him to vote on whatever's going on in front of the Metro Council, and he has to go on record on things. So it's how he uses that seat to his advantage. What does he do in it? He's got a chance to say, this is what I can do. He has to do well in this time while he's on the Metro Council to prove to the district that he can carry on and lead that seat.
That's interesting. Yeah, he does have to end up on the record about literally everything. So The other two candidates do get to play Monday morning quarterback when it comes to their campaigning as well. Want to ask
But
you?
he can also, in that same vein, he also has a more of a platform to do something for the district and show that this is what I will do as a councilor. So it's a two-edged sword.
Oh no, 100%, absolutely. That being said, though, we're under 2 months away from this. Does he have enough time to get anything significant done between now and then?
I think he can. It's just what he can get done. It's all up to him and how strong he can show as a voice on that council.
On a race the level of Metro Council, what do we normally see when it comes to campaigning? This isn't like when you see the millions of dollars pumped into a congressional seat. This is a lot different.
No. This is door to door. This is retail politics at its basis. This is getting your social networks together, working on social media to have your followers create a presence for you, so that when people in the district go on social media, all their friends have see stuff for you on their friends' social media. It's yard signs. It's walking door to door. It's community events. It's very much retail politics on the ground. Whoever can show the best will win this race. Retail politics is just it's the stuff that renews my faith in democracy, really, because it is the grassroots of it. It is the actual shaking hands and kissing babies. It is the actual talking to the delegation, talking to the people that live within your district, rather than just responding to large media buys. Exactly. And these are, in terms of the 101 and the Metro Council seat, it's possible. I mean, it's work, but you can knock every door in your district.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's who gets out and puts in the legwork on the ground can overcome a money advantage.
Absolutely. Do we know anything about money advantages in this race? I wouldn't imagine there would be any numbers yet.
No, reports haven't come out yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Over to the 19th JDC, and I saved this one for last because I find it to be the most intriguing. You have three different candidates with completely different, I don't want to say approaches, but let's say tribes. I mean, you get three different candidates with three completely different, what's the word I'm looking for? What they're bringing to the table is going to bring different people to the table.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You have Jordan Faircloth, who's a name we know, Brad Myers, a former federal prosecutor, Jen Rocca, who sits on the Metro Council right now, she has been a career attorney, so she brings that. She worked for the district attorney prior, so she has experience in this role. People don't necessarily see her that way, but this is a role she is qualified for.
No, 100%. Yeah, she's an attorney. She was an attorney before she was a Metro Council member, but being on the Metro Council has just raised her level of profile.
Exactly.
Jen Rocca is a very intriguing candidate in this one. Now, Myers was a name that I didn't know, but I have an attorney on the show every single Wednesday. Me and Franz Borghardt sit down every single Wednesday, and apparently Myers is remarkably well respected within the legal community.
Yes, that's from attorneys I've spoken to and getting knowledge on these candidates. That's exactly the same thing I heard. Very well respected in the legal community. He was a later name into the field when word surfaced, but he's going to be another formidable candidate in this race.
And then you got Jordan Faircloth, who most of us know from playing for LSU. I mean, he played baseball at LSU. I don't know if any of that translates from being a pitcher to being a judge. I don't know if any of that translates from job description to job description, but he will have a lot of popularity behind his name. Is there any way to?
He's an attorney. Let's just.
No, 100%. Yes, absolutely he is. It's just that's not how we know him yet.
The first thing I think of him is LSU, but sure. I mean that's a huge advantage as well. That is an absolutely huge advantage. People will know the name. They might not know where they know it from, but they'll know the name.
So. And not to mention the fact that when voting for a judge, as a populace, do we often know what exactly we're looking for when we're looking for a judge?
I think it's very hard for voting for a judge. You have to really dive into their experience and find people who have that firsthand knowledge of them and working. It's much different than what you're expecting when you're looking at a Metro Council candidate or a state rep. It's a different position, and it puts people where you really need to find attorneys, other people in the legal profession who have these interactions and can tell you kind of more about what they're looking for and what they need in a judge.
Yeah, it's one where we kind of all know the game when it comes to the normal political posts, but when it comes to judge, it's the questions that get asked aren't often the right questions, and it all comes down to administering the law.
Yeah.
That being said, elections are still popularity contests. So at the end of the day, I don't know that Myers can overcome the tribes that are behind Jordan Faircloth and Jen Rocca.
That's the question, but he definitely will have a voice to play in it. And it depends on how the campaign rolls out. How much do they interact? What ends up being the public perception of these campaigns? Do you have a situation where two of the candidates go real negative, creating animosity between the two, and people get fed up with it? You can see somebody go a third way. A lot of people go, no, that's not what I wanted in judge. I'm going the third way. You can find these dynamics as the campaign plays out, and that could have a huge impact on how this race actually plays out.
What about party politics when it comes to something like this? Because we're talking about races that are on a very local level. I didn't even ask with District 101. Is everybody involved a Democrat?
No, Terry Hebert is a white independent.
White independent. All right. And over in District 5, I didn't bother to ask there either. I just assumed it's a Democratic stronghold, so I assume everyone there is running as a Democrat.
All Democrats.
And then in the judges' race, does it matter?
Well, they're all Republicans.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, party politics, especially right now, is hugely important to how people vote. You see it time and time again as people voting party and defaulting to party. But in really all three of these races, you don't have a situation where it's going to be an intense Democrat versus Republican fight. It's all inter-party.
Which, again, just like the grassroots efforts of it, is quite refreshing when it all comes down to it. David Zoller is the manager of governmental affairs for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. David, what's the Chamber's role in these races? How do y'all get active?
There's a PAC that's associated with the Chamber, Future PAC, that's going to get involved in these races, I am sure. We'll probably we'll convene some of these meetings and discuss and talk about the candidates, and we have our agendas that we've put out in the past for the legislature and for the Metro Council that we hope these candidates will take a look at for issues facing our area. Really, we just think it's so important that people get involved and people are aware as redistricting's going on. Then right afterwards, the legislative session starts. These are much further down on people's radar, but they're just as important as either of those to the future of Baton Rouge in our area.
Yeah, 100%. Now, redistricting will be over before this election happens, but the official districts won't be out there just yet. So we'll be voting on District 101 based off of what 101 is right now. He is David Zoller with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. We greatly appreciate the time, sir. Thank you for hopping on board today.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too. You too. It's going to be fun to watch these play out. And we'll dive into endorsements as we get closer to it as well. We got news coming your way in just a minute. Before we hit news, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. They've got 2 locations. They're downtown on 3rd Street. You know them, you love them, downtown on 3rd Street. But do you know about the LSU location? They're directly across the street from Tiger Stadium, right across Nicholson from Tiger Stadium. In the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, you will find Mathern's Market. Yes, it's on campus. No, it's not just for students. It is king cake season right now. Swing by and grab your king cakes. Be the office hero. On your way into work, stop by and grab a king cake. Yes, you're going to get a lot of, I just can't. But they will. Whether you have it cream cheese filled, praline filled, strawberry filled, or go original, the king cakes at Mathern's, I'll put them up against anybody's. And, oh, by the way, it is Mardi Gras time, which means parades are, about 2 weeks away? Treat your parades like you treat your tailgate, which means stopping by Mathern's. Grab yourself a platter of some finger foods. Grab a couple 6-packs. Their beer collection is fantastic. Mathern's on Nicholson in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center. Nicholson at Skip Bourbon Drive. It's right across the street from Tiger Stadium. It's Mathern's. It's all good.
Is there anything that you want me to specifically mention on the post that I hadn't already covered? It was
Yeah, the elections for State Representative District 101, Metro Council District 5, yes, and the 19th JDC. Eric says they only get revenue on losses and if you take it out, right? I believe they get revenue on all of them because you got to pay the house juice on all of it. And I don't think it has anything to do with whether or not you take it out. They're not taxing us, they're taxing the sports books, as I understand it. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. Byron says the secret to having people vote for you as a judge is to show you can reproduce in your commercials and flyers, unless the family's hideous looking. You also have to have a golden retriever. Two words. Oh.
One of our best players of the season. Probably arguably the best player in his position in the world. Just signed a contract extension for another 2 years. He already has deal runs through 2027. By then he'll be past his prime.
Grab the phone, please.
Talk 107.3. Morning, Cade. How are you? Doing well. We're currently in the middle of a break. We're going to be live on air back in probably about 3 or 4 minutes. We'll get you on, okay? Thank you. Peace out.
Oh, shit. I'm just super tired. I didn't sleep for crap last night. Kill the mics for a second. 737. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to David Zoller for hopping on board to talk about the upcoming elections. Before we get to those elections, though, we got a lot of ground to cover. There will be an entire special session based off of that maps out redistricting. That session starts today. We're going to talk about it more with Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute in our next hour. Right now, though, every month we get the chance to catch up with State Superintendent of Education, Dr. Cade Brumley, who joins us right now. Dr. Brumley, good morning. How are you, sir?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
No, always glad to have you on here. Always look forward to our conversations. You've got a lot of things you're working on right now. I got to start off by asking you about the Hurricane Preparedness Commission, where we are with that, and really what got the ball rolling with this. I mean, it's 2022 in Louisiana. I was a little bit surprised to hear we didn't have what we thought we had.
Not as surprised as I've been. So, I stepped in the role almost 2 years ago now, and outside of the pandemic, we've also faced Hurricane Laura, Delta, and Ida specifically, which have, been tremendous blows to our state. And so what has happened in each of those storms has really been quite similar. Leaders in school systems and educators working hard, working with urgency, but really a lack of having resources and FAQs all in one location to answer many of their questions around, how could we have been better prepared? How can we handle communication right after a storm? How do I engage with my insurance companies and FEMA and environmental studies to get kids back in the building? And just there are so many issues immediately in the aftermath of a storm, and there's really not a playbook statewide for how to handle that. So, what I said is, one, I can't believe this doesn't already exist for schools in our state, but two, let's pull together some of the experts with expertise in this from across the state, particularly along the coastal communities, and ask them to think about what are those questions that they face immediately after a storm. What are some things that they could have done in advance of the storm? And let's just build a playbook so in the event of future storms, we've already put all that information in one location for our leaders.
Now, a playbook is one thing. I mean, I think we all go into this realizing that every storm is different, every path is different, every ounce of damage is different as well. So I would imagine that while there are guidelines, there's no hard and fast rules.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. But what we want to do is just have the opportunity for leaders who have, been through these scenarios, been through these situations, knowing some of those common questions or struggles that they had, and try to let this commission of 17 individuals work through those in advance. I'll give you another just anecdotal example. When Hurricanes Laura, Delta, Ida again hit, many of the individuals who were in school systems or school principals or superintendents back when, say, Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Rita hit, those individuals were no longer in the school systems anymore. So that institutional knowledge of, oh yeah, we did this and we did that was gone. And so you had individuals in many instances who had never dealt with the impacts of storms. And so we just want to try and help them out. Hopefully it'll be a resource that never is needed, but we want to make it available using the expertise we have in our state. And also, I've talked to individuals in other states about this, coastal states, and even states where they have a lot of like tornadoes, and they have indicated to me, hey, do that right, because that might be a model for many of us.
I'm glad you mentioned other states, because that's exactly where I was going to go. While we do see a few hurricanes every year, it is not nearly the scope that we see throughout the Gulf Coast. Mississippi gets theirs, Alabama gets theirs, Florida gets theirs, sometimes Texas gets theirs. What level of what possibility is there for collaboration with other Gulf Coast states?
Certainly our partners along the Gulf Coast, for sure, relative to hurricanes. But I've even spoken to state leaders in states in the Northeast. Last year they dealt with a lot of flooding up in the Northeast, and schools and state leaders were trying to figure out, how do we deal with this? And so many of the problems I found that they were dealing with their flooding were very similar to some of the things that we've dealt with here in Louisiana. So, we're going to do due diligence ProtectLAschools.org is the site for the commission. They will get started in about 2 weeks. They'll meet over a series of months and then put forward a set of recommendations on, how school systems can be better prepared in advance of storms. What do they need to already have in place going into hurricane season? And then in the aftermath of a storm, a set of recommendations to help them work their way through those. And we'll make that publicly available and make that available to other states as well.
What level of cooperation or collaboration will there be with this between educators and those who are outside of the education field? Because as I was reading the article on this, it seems like there's going to be a lot of logistics that play into it, a lot of insurance claims that play into it, a lot of remote learning that might have to play into this. I mean, are we going to be leaning on, say, people who know infrastructure as their background, people who know technology as their background? How collaborative is this thing going to be?
Yeah, very much. And we have individuals such as that on the commission. So people in emergency management. We have people from, university partners. We go as far as having individuals who are architects and engineers who understand the facilities and how storms hold up, and how buildings hold up under different pressures. So, we can't cover everything, but we think we have a strong 17-member commission that certainly, by zeroing in on a storm's impact on a school system, we believe that we can come up with a set of recommendations just to help school systems navigate this in the future. If you remember, and I'm sure you do because we've done this segment before while I've been in Thibodaux or Metairie or Lake Charles, we have a number of kids that are out of school once these storms hit. After Ida, we had over 300,000 kids out.
Yeah.
And so anything we can do to return those students safely as quickly as we possibly can, we want to do that.
How difficult is it to write a playbook when the playbook's going to be continually changing in coming years? Whether that be, it's going to vary from hurricane season to hurricane season, but technology is going to be upgraded. We're looking to move to more broadband or expand broadband in Louisiana. Infrastructure is going to be upgraded in the near future, or so we're promised. How tough is it to write a moving playbook?
Well, we're going to write the playbook for now and recognize that as technology advances or as circumstances advance, we'll have to make adjustments. But as I said, there isn't anything that exists at this moment. And I can promise you that 2 years ago when we first faced Laura, I had wished that there was something on the shelf, for us to go to and begin that work. But so we're gonna make that available, and we will evolve as necessary.
Dr. Cade Brumley is our guest. He's the state superintendent of education. We get to get caught up every month or so on what he's got going on outside. And by the way, the announcement video was it. Since your time in this office, since your time in this role, it has been hurricane after hurricane, all in the midst of the pandemic. It's nice to see sort of a turning of the corner for what's coming for the future, as opposed to reacting to what's already happened in the past.
Yeah, you mentioned the video. It's really good, the launch video, ProtectLAschools.org. But I have a picture that someone took and shared with me, and I'm basically in a face mask in the middle of hurricane damage. And I'm thinking, yep, this pretty much captures it.
No, exactly. So everything has been reactive. It's a matter of turning the corner to being proactive. That's where you can actually make a difference as far as our future is concerned. So shifting over to what your plans would be, what your agenda would be for the office in the near future, outside of protecting Louisiana schools, the Hurricane Preparedness Commission, what else are you looking at right now?
Well, for one, literacy, Brian. I'm gonna stream this from the rooftops. Over the last couple of years, one thing that we have tried to do is be very upfront with the rates of literacy or illiteracy in our state, and we know that less than half of our third graders are on grade level proficient in reading by the end of third grade. And so what we have tried to do is be very public in letting the citizens of the state have that information and know that, because we just felt like we had to build some urgency around it and a desire to correct it. And so we had a really strong legislative session last year around literacy. We've put in place a number of practices around literacy for school systems this year. When I go into schools this year, I see the results of some of our work, and so we're going to keep our foot on the pedal around literacy and ensuring that our kids are doing better by the end of third grade than they're doing now. I think we've taken reading for granted for way too long. We've just assumed that kids are going to learn how to read, and unfortunately, not enough of our kids are. And so we need to go back to the basics in many ways around things like phonics, and the way that we train our teachers, the way that we support our teachers and give them the resources they need and to understand what to do and how to do. And I think if we can keep a focus on this particular area over the course of spring, it's really going to matter, particularly as we think about recovery from learning loss.
You mentioned something right there. I'm glad you mentioned it because I did want to touch on this. Is we're seeing more and more attention focused on things that are beyond the basics when it comes to education. How important is it to make sure that we're grounded in the basics, like phonics? I mean, we hear arguments all the time about CRT and social studies standards and that sort of thing, but getting back to just the absolute basics of reading and math. How easy is it to get lost in the weeds of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, you know where I stand on some of those other issues you've mentioned, but, for me, there's nothing more important than, having a high-quality teacher in every classroom. That's base there. It's super important for me to give families the opportunity to have schools that make sense for them and to be able to select those schools. And then just basic things like going back to basics on literacy and really making sure kids can read, especially by the time they leave third grade, and then high schools. And are we doing everything that we need to be doing to give families and students a menu of options to help prepare them for whatever they're going to do next after high school? And not just saying, oh, it's high school, they'll spend some time there and then they'll get out. But what are we doing in those high schools to make sure that kids are ready for what's next? And so just some basic things I think we've taken for granted, and we really just want to lean into those areas. And we're doing that.
So much of the discussion when it comes to education is about high school. And like you said, if you're not reading by third grade, then the likelihood that you've just mentally clocked out is greater. And there's so many more repercussions beyond that. In the meanwhile, I appreciate the time every single month. He is Dr. Cade Brumley, heads up education in the state of Louisiana. Thank you, Dr. Brumley. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Yes, sir.
Always. We got to take a quick break. Going to check your money now. Going to check traffic. When we come back from that break, it is time for us to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. Every day, we check in on the surrounding parishes with a segment we call The Outside In. That's coming your way next, right here on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk in Baton Rouge. Oh, man. I got a 9:40 interview this morning, and I don't know if I'm going to make it. I already drank my Red Bull. Ooh. Look, I'd be asleep right now if it weren't for it. Yeah. So apparently my post from yesterday is still just gangbusters today. Have you ever purchased steaks off the back of a truck? There's an 18-wheeler that posts up all around Baton Rouge. It says 20 ribeyes for $35. Yeah.
Are they good? It doesn't sound like they should be good.
I don't know. I've never purchased them.
Okay. Comments, have you?
Oh, plenty of comments. Whoa.
Yes. Anybody tuning in right now, have you done so?
Oh, no. We did this all yesterday for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Did they say if they were good or not?
I've heard a lot of this dog meat. So.
I mean, 20 ribeyes for $35. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That's doesn't sound high quality.
Excuse me. Jeez.
Not exactly jumping off the page for me.
Nope. Yeah.
Louisiana Department and then
Yeah.
And then there was one at Louisiana Department. I don't know if that's supposed to be it or not. But you have Booyah,
No.
All that's left that's listed that I know of is
Okay.
You said you have a new library though for this.
Yeah.
I don't know if it appeared in the log yet or will. Just look through the whole sheet from 6 to 9.
Wait, say that again.
I don't. What's the new library for?
Treasurer's office. They're launching a new website for the unclaimed property program. What time is that one?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
Well, there's one for Louisiana Department.
That's it.
I saw 2 of them.
Two of okay, yeah. Oh shoot, I'm supposed to do 2 today. All right, I'll do one at 8:05 and then another one towards the end of the 8 o'clock hour. Hello.
The department one was at 6:35, so it just kind of passed through. And then the other one was at 7:35.
What passed through? What?
Like during that break, that's when I'm like doing a bunch of like work on posts. So it'll be like once I'm done with news, the 2-minute news, then I just click traffic, and then you don't see anything until it just goes all the way through. It's traffic, and you don't see anything, and then once traffic's done, then you see a bunch of stuff. But while that's happening, I'm usually looking here.
Okay.
Is that going to be the case for the rest of the year, or just a month?
As far as how I don't know. I don't know that side of it. So, is it different than it used to be?
No, I was saying this specific library. Are you going to have this for the foreseeable future?
It's like a month. It's just a launch of the new website.
Then I'll keep my eyes peeled for that one now.
Interstate travel looking much better on the westbound side. All lanes are open on the Mississippi Bridge, and they have been for about 15 minutes. So we're seeing a big improvement on that travel on the westbound side. Still some backups, but much more manageable. 12 minutes from the split to LA 1, and we're noting some backups coming in from Shannon. Talk about the Avian River Bridge.
Another hour and a half. Well, I mean, with the interview I've got after the show, yes.
After Saturday night, I went to bed at about 5:30. I had
Yeah.
a flight at 9. So you can imagine I got maybe an hour of sleep.
Yep.
Don't sleep on planes ever, but I slept on that plane. That's a testament to how tired I was after that kind of night.
.755 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We got CBS News coming your way shortly. After CBS News, Jake will take us back in time for this day in history. We're going to get to the outside in just a second. I'm going to tell you about the folks over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. If you do not yet have lunch plans, maybe get on by Mooyah. When's the last time you had a good cheeseburger? When's the last time you had the best cheeseburger in Baton Rouge? That's what they got over at Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. You're going to find fresh ingredients. You're going to find fresh cut vegetables. You are going to find freshly baked potato buns. They bake their buns daily. And, of course, the USDA certified Angus beef. All wrapped up in the best customer service you're going to find around and makes for the best burger in Baton Rouge. If you look at their menu, you're going to see a number of different burgers that they've got mapped out for you. Whether that be the A Wonderful, whether that be the best case scenario, the Double Diablo, the Hamburger Dog, you name it, they've got them up there. But if none of those are to your liking, build your own. Yes, you can build your own burger, create your own burger, make it the best burger in Baton Rouge. 2 locations, Blue Bonnet at Highland and Segan, just north of Industrialplex, for Mooyah Burgers, Fries, and Shakes. Time for us to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. It's time for the outside in. Let's roll. We're not going to go far looking up at the traffic cameras. I'm not laughing. If you're stuck in traffic, my apologies. I'm looking at them coming in from West Baton Rouge. It's pretty rough right now. We're going to start off in Ascension Parish today. A woman was found shot to death outside a gas station Sunday in Donaldsonville. Deputies discovered her killer shot himself in the parking lot of a nearby funeral home. The Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office said the body of 36-year-old Charlotte Smith was found around 8:15 p.m. outside the station on West 10th Street. Shortly thereafter, deputies found the body of 38-year-old Raymond Shields in the parking lot of a funeral home on Highway 945 on the loop with a single gunshot wound to his head. Deputies said they believe the murder-suicide spiraled from a domestic violence incident. That investigation is ongoing. Over to Livingston Parish, former French Settlement Police Chief Harry Brignac is missing. Tina Brignac, daughter of the former police chief, said her father was last seen Monday morning, has not been heard from since, leaving his phone and a note at his home. It's believed he left it in his white 2009 GMC pickup truck, which is also missing. The French Settlement Police Department is leading the search with help from the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. Brignac's truck has a U.S. Army license plate AR5739. AR5739 is the license plate. Brignac's 74 years old. He was a village's police chief for nearly 4 decades before resigning in 2018. Looking at St. Tammany, Jefferson, St. Bernard, and St. James parishes, there's going to be a lot less on the March 26th ballot. Numerous candidates ended up running unopposed, meaning they win by default. 3 races in Jefferson, 3 in St. Bernard, 1 in St. James, and 3 in St. Tammany, including the mayor of Slidell, could only garner 1 participant. Nobody wants to be mayor of Slidell. Imagine that. Closing out New Orleans, looks like they're going to get a House seat back in the redistricting session that starts today. The Big Easy lost 6 seats post-Katrina with the population that followed the storm. Since that time, the city has grown back to over 40,000 by over 40,000 residents. Regaining a seat this year is not guaranteed, but going in, they've definitely got a case they can make. That is The Outside In, brought to you by the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy. We've got to take a quick break for news. When we come back from news, Jake will have This Day in History. Also, we're going to talk redistricting next hour. Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute is going to hop on board. It's looking like more seats are going to move from North Louisiana down to South Louisiana. We're talking about it next hour on Talk 107.3.
Protect your retirement. Visit SafeMoneyPlan.net.
All right. Nice. Small parents. I screw up like that at least 5 times a day, so I shouldn't laugh, but that was funny. It's funny. CBS News just said, good news for small parents. Make that parents with small kids. No, it's live. Yeah. Haggai says yes. I say it's problematic because no matter how good a self-driving car is, not every car will be self-driving. Therefore, there will be multiple problems.
Well, like when there's problems with it, are they still going to come with the steering wheel? Or
Yeah, no shit. She ought to apologize. Whoopi Goldberg. She said the Holocaust was not about race. Seriously.
I just went to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. for the third time. It was specifically about race. It was specifically.
Oh. Oh, no spoilers, Galen. I have not started season 4 of Ozark yet. I did Muya. Yes. Actually, let me knock out the first of those right now, so I have room between this one and the next one.
Erspamer that's just like square, but it's like his face is this. If I'm smiling, I'm not gonna use that one. Doesn't matter who you are. There's a picture of you with your face stacked close to the screen.
Galen says I'd be willing to donate to an experiment for Brian to buy these ribeyes and provide a review. I don't know that I want to do that. The Pelican Institute. What's his LinkedIn profile have? .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 3 coming your way right now. We got a busy hour this hour. Redistricting session gets underway today. Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute is going to join us at 8:15 to talk about it. Also this hour, D.C. Current with Congressman Troy Carter. Looking forward to this conversation. We got a lot of ground to cover with the Congressman. We were not able to catch up with him last week. Might have to mention the redistricting session as well, because there's going to be some decent discussion to be had for he is in a majority-minority district. How do you create a second one, as a number of people want to see created, while not gerrymandering a district that's going to look like a bunch of piecemealed squiggly lines? It's not going to look like a map for someone trying to follow a conspiracy theory with bits of string headed between thumbtacks on a board. It's just the way Louisiana is laid out, it's going to be a difficult, if not impossible task. And will there be enough will to do it? If the case could be made that it's actually needed. We'll get into all that later on. We're going to get you to this day in history in just a second. I do need to remind you that National Unclaimed Property Day is today. National Unclaimed Property Day is today. Are you familiar with the program that our state treasurer has when it comes to unclaimed property? It's very well run. It's very efficient. If you've never taken part in it before, just go to the state treasurer's website and click on the unclaimed property tab. John Schroeder's website, and click on the unclaimed property tab. The unclaimed property team is working hard every day to give you your money back as quickly as possible. There's over $900 million. I want to say that can't be right. Not $900 million. There's money that's available for the taking every single day. If you've ever moved from an apartment and had a leftover deposit, if you've ever transferred your electricity somewhere and had a leftover deposit, if you have ever closed a bank account but had money left in it, that money doesn't just disappear. It goes back into the unclaimed property program and can be returned to you. Just look up your name. Go to the state treasurer's website and look up your name. Today is Unclaimed Property Day, but we're going to be talking about this for some time. Did you know that last year the state treasurer's office beat all previous records, paid out more than $70 million? $70 million of your money got back to you. And you'd be shocked. Just look up latreasurer.gov, click on unclaimed property from there, and just look up your name. You'd be shocked. Look up your relatives. It's a lot of fun. Look up a relative and then call them when you see their name on there. You're not going to believe this. You got a couple $100 sitting over there just waiting for you. Oh, latreasury.gov, click on unclaimed property from there. Today is National Unclaimed Property Day. Or, you know what? The press conference isn't until 2 this afternoon. But look up lacashclaim.org. lacashclaim.org. The state treasurer's office is looking to give you back your money. State Treasurer John Schroeder. We'll have more on that throughout the day tomorrow. Right now, this day in history. Let's roll.
Good morning, Baton Rouge. It is good to be back. It is this day in history. We're starting things off in 1587. Queen Elizabeth I of England signs a death warrant for her cousin Mary, Queen of Scots. Only reason I put it on there is interesting family.
I mean, death warrant for your sister. That's
Cousin,
excuse me. Yeah. Doesn't happen every day.
Not quite, but back in 1587, it was a common pastime.
All right.
Apparently. We're going to go 201 year exactly in the future. 1788, the first U.S. steamboat patent issued by Georgia to Briggs and Longstreet.
Okay.
1810, first insurance company managed by African Americans. The African Insurance Company opens in Philadelphia.
Wait, what was the name of that steamboat company?
Patent issued by Georgia to Briggs and Longstreet.
Right.
See, this whole time I thought it was Mickey Mouse that patented it, but
no.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't informed well enough in school. 1893, excuse me. Thomas Edison completes the world's first movie studio at West Orange, New Jersey.
Cool.
First movie studio was in New Jersey of all places. Baffling.
Isaac Briggs and William Longstreet.
Yeah.
Yeah, find it intriguing. I'll read more on that later. Go ahead.
Sounds good. 1957, the first black pilot, P.H. Young, on a U.S. scheduled passenger airline. 1964, the Beatles' first #1 hit, I Wanna Hold Your Hand, topped the Hot 100, stays #1 for 7 weeks before being replaced by She Loves You, also by the Beatles.
You know, on this day in 1914, Jim Thorpe, star of the 1912 Olympics, signed to play baseball with the New York Giants.
How'd that go?
Not bad. It's Jim Thorpe, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
We'll get back to him later.
Sounds good. 1965, Martin Luther King Jr. and 700 demonstrators arrested in Selma, Alabama. 1978, Harriet Tubman is first African-American woman to be honored on a U.S. postage stamp. Fun fact for you.
I see a theme developing here, don't I?
We'll get to it at the end of this segment.
Yeah, we will.
1982, Late Night with David Letterman debuts on NBC TV. Bill Murray is his first guest.
Wow.
He was pretty
Okay.
big in the
Yeah.
80s.
Good segment, too.
Oh, I bet.
You should go back and
Actually,
watch it. Yeah.
Maybe I did see it. It was probably a while ago, but I will rewatch that later today. 10 years later, in 1992, slug and outfielder Barry Bonds signs the highest single-year contract in MLB history, $4.7 million with the Pittsburgh Pirates. You, with your expertise on America's pastime, as you and many others like to call it, has that number been absolutely demolished since?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
I assume so.
The New York Mets have demolished it multiple times. Johan Santana signed a contract on this day in what year was it? Like 06 or something.
I'll take your word for it.
Blew it out of the water, among others. Multiple others.
Jeez. 2013, last thing I can talk about on this day in history. House of Cards, released on Netflix.
Wow. They jumped the shark after season 2. It did not need to last more than 2 seasons.
I've been meaning to watch it. You know, say what you will about Kevin Spacey.
First 2 seasons were, well, hasn't he been exonerated?
I don't know, but
anyway.
like either way, his reputation took a hit. But he is a phenomenal actor.
So, a couple more notes here. On this day in 1984, David Stern became the NBA's commissioner. On this day in 2014, Adam Silver became the commissioner on the anniversary of David Stern becoming the commissioner. So, there's that. There's also, this day in 2004, the wardrobe malfunction.
Oh, God.
Gonna have you naked by the end of this song.
I was 5 or 6 when that happened, so guess I wasn't there to witness that.
Yesterday was Justin Timberlake's birthday.
Happy birthday to him.
Yeah, so today in 2004, he showed us all a piece of Janet Jackson that we grew up with.
There you go. Only 3 birthdays that I have to talk about. This one I'm kind of obligated to because my girlfriend loves him.
Jim Thorpe.
Yeah, Jim Thorpe, obviously. Happy birthday to Harry Styles, who turns 28.
Oh, God, whatever.
Ronda Rousey is 35.
Yes, she is.
And Rick James was born on this day in 1948.
Big Boy's birthday today, too.
I don't know who Big Boy is.
All right, fine. Also, born on this day
Wait, wasn't Big Boy a burger company or something?
That's Bob's Big Boy. That's different. This is BOI, Big Boy.
See, I'm thinking of Austin Powers again.
Former New Orleans State Rob Ninkovich.
Ooh.
Former New Orleans St. Traveris Cadet.
Who dat?
And that was all I had.
Cool beans. Happy birthday to all those mentioned. I didn't have any deaths to talk about. Do you have any before I get to the holidays?
No.
We got a lot.
Yeah.
I can talk about the days first, and then we'll get to the month since it is the first of the month. First up, holidays. It is National Dark Chocolate Day.
Okay.
Gotta say, I've lightened up to dark chocolate. Wow. I didn't mean to make that pun. But yeah, dark chocolate's delicious. National Baked Alaska Day. No, not baking the state. That state is freezing. Apparently Alaska is a dessert. But it is National Baked Alaska Day. And the last day I have to talk about is National Freedom Day. Now, let's get to the month.
Yes. Good.
First up, National Women's Inventor Month.
We could skip all of the other ones. It's the beginning of Black History Month.
Black
that
History
was the
Month.
theme. That was the theme that was running through all the different dates in this day in history.
It's Black History Month, African American Heritage Month, and it's also LGBT plus Awareness Month.
Wow. Okay.
Big day, big month for diversity. But that is this day in history.
Quick break. When we come back, Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute joins us next. It's also Cancer Awareness Month or Cancer Prevention Month. But it's Black History Month. Like that. Oh, Galen says, come on, man, take the ribeye challenge, invite others too. You know what? I think I would. I'm not buying 20 ribeyes for $35. But if presented with one, I would prepare it and consume it to be sure.
You want me to check the phone?
Yes, please. Nina says, good morning. Will they talk about Prairieville area redistricting? Are you feeling better? I am feeling fine. And I don't know if Prairieville picked up enough residents Yeah, they definitely. Well, I want to see Prairieville was like fourth or so. Galen says Franz, Haggai, etc. all eating $1.75 ribeyes on one of the AM shows would be awesome. Well, I don't think Franz eats meat anymore, so there's that. Yeah, I don't. It does feel like a lot of people, but you got to remember Prairieville is just 2 roads, right? You got Airline, you got 42. I guess you got 44 as well, but it's not on 73, but it's overrun to be sure. But the number of people I'll go look up the numbers. I don't know that they're in the top 5 for population growth. It just feels that way. Am I losing my voice? I ought to be. I was losing my voice on Saturday for sure. Kevin Rowan from.
Was that the gentleman who sat right there when he was with Congressman Graves?
I thought that was Zach that came in with Congressman Graves last week or week before, whatever.
Whoever took that, I'm very grateful for them doing so.
Absolutely.
I mean, I got the best shot of all.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a video.
Well, it's kind of cool to have the shot of the shot. Yeah, exactly. You know. 818 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. All right, redistricting session starts today. The legislature will convene for 20 days to redraw all the maps. Joining us now to talk about it from the Pelican Institute, Daniel Erspamer. Daniel, welcome back, sir. How are you, man?
Hey, good morning, my friend. Great to be with you.
Great to have you on this morning. Okay, so there will be a lot of hurry up and wait. I talked to State Representative Mark Wright from Covington earlier today as Covington had St. Tammany had huge population growth over the last 10 years. He says expect a lot of hurry up and wait from today. I'm guessing from the Pelican Institute standpoint, you're going to have the same take.
Oh, absolutely. And, they've been working hard, the governmental committees in both the House and the Senate, to go around the state and gather input. But, I think a lot of legislators will be sitting at their desks waiting on the committees to do their work and public testimony to be done. And they'll get there, and then all of a sudden it'll be time to vote.
We're looking at a number of different maps on a number of different levels. Let's start with the 6 congressional districts. Do you expect to see much change to how they're laid out?
I really don't. There's been a lot of talk about maybe adding one additional majority-minority district. We'll see. Obviously, the courts may end up having their say in that, but what I expect is the congressional districts, they're likely to end up pretty close to where they are now.
So I hear the talk about the potential second majority-minority district, but I keep coming back to how. How could you put that on a map? I don't. It's not making sense to me.
It I think requires the redistricting is a funny process, right? Lots of calls to be fair and fair lines and all that, and transparency is really good, important in this. Redistricting is inherently a political process. There's no way to take politics out of it because it's fundamentally political, and so gerrymandering gets a bad name, understandably, but to your point, there requires quite a bit of gerrymandering to get meet all of the different requirements and get that outcome.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, isn't it? If African Americans represent 33% of your populace, but only 1/2 of that when it comes to your representation in Congress, you can't reconcile that with redrawing maps that include contiguous districts. I don't think they'd be able to create. I mean, creating Congressman Carter's district before it was Congressman Carter's, but creating the second was weird enough. The fact that, and he's on in our next segment, the fact that a New Orleans congressman has part of his district in Baton Rouge is strange, to say the least.
For sure, and it'll be interesting to see what he has to say, to the extent he has an opinion on this process as well. And, part of incumbency is keeping your incumbency. So incumbents often have a bias toward the way things are now. But it'll be interesting to see that conversation as it progresses.
All right, you mentioned that, and I want to do a little foreshadowing here. Because you mentioned this is a political process, and incumbents do have the say because they're the ones in the room making the votes. How much is that going to play into what we're going to see in the regular legislative session? How many people are going to just offer up their full agenda in exchange for their job security?
You know, it happens every year. And talking to a number of members over the last few weeks about this, you know, there's some, I know, apprehension about how the negotiations in the redistricting session may affect relationships and bills and everything else in the regular session. We shall see, but no doubt a lot of those conversations happening behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, meanwhile, from the last census to this census, there's been a lot of population shifts. What's North Louisiana going to look like after this from a mapping standpoint, from a district mapping standpoint?
Yeah, it looks like, particularly in the Senate, North Louisiana will likely lose a seat. You talk to Mark Wright, his district, I believe, in the House has had the biggest growth. It's almost doubled in size since the last redrawing of the map. So likely somewhere in maybe Tangipahoa or St. Tammany or somewhere in that area will pick up a seat that moved down from North Louisiana. But you know, population shifts have not been kind to North Louisiana, and the maps unfortunately are going to have to reflect that. Yeah,
they are, and it's going to look significantly different, especially when you get inside New Orleans, where there's been, while Mark Wright's district had the most growth from one particular district, the city as a whole of New Orleans saw a ton of regrowth in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, lost a lot of population, but from 2010 to 2020, regrew a lot of that population. Now, New Orleans presents an interesting scenario because you're probably going to have to add back at least one House seat. But at the same time, though, you're talking about a Republican-led state legislature and a Democratic stronghold within the seat that's going to have to be added. How does that get reconciled?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. You're right. You know, you're just looking at these numbers real quick. Actually, by percentage, St. Bernard had the largest growth, 30% from 2010. Ascension Parish, 20%, and as you note, Orleans at just almost 12%. So it'll be interesting to see how that all moves around. You mentioned the House. You know, likely 2 seats from the north will come south. One of those likely into New Orleans. You know, again, those negotiations happen. You know, the Orleans Parish delegation likely has a point of view about what that should look like, and likely will get what they want.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is it's likely going to be mid-city, which would kind of, right. If it squeezes everybody down, they're all in favor of it, because if your district geography-wise gets smaller, your population or your voter base retreats to its own strength. Absolutely. You know, the other one to keep an eye on, Acadiana. There has been some shifts in population there. Lafayette has grown. Some areas around the coast obviously have shrunk. So some of that population shift is going to be interesting to watch as well. Wait, what area did you say shrunk? The population along the coast. Oh yeah. So did that coincide with the census though? Okay. How recent do the population drops have to happen in order for them to play out within this session? Yeah, great question. It is based on the census numbers. So we saw a little bit. Obviously, there's been a little bit more since those numbers, but all of this will be drawn based on the 2020 census data. Right. It's curious to me because you're talking about 2020 census and hurricanes from 2020 and 2021. Like, I don't know how quickly the turnaround is going to be and what effects those are going to have on, like, say, Southwest Louisiana. Although, how quickly did they get back in there? I'm Daniel, I'm working through the idea of how New Orleans saw population drop after Katrina. Will we see those same long-term effects from Lake Charles? You know, it's not out of the question. The countervailing pressure that is, if you look over the course of the last few years, Calcasieu and Southwest Louisiana has had the biggest boom economically of anywhere in the state. So
to the extent those the chemical jobs and everything else are coming back post hurricane, that may sort of be the pressure that keeps people back in that area rather than in New Orleans where we saw people leave.
We got Daniel Erspamer from the Pelican Institute for a couple more minutes talking about the redistricting session that starts today. Daniel, what's the Pelican Institute's role in this session? How active are y'all during this one?
We're really just observing. Obviously, we care in terms of principles. We care about transparency of the process and keeping an eye, sort of watchdog that. But otherwise, frankly, we're putting most of our efforts getting ready for the regular session. We've got some big issues coming to play there. I know we'll talk about those later. But mostly just watching and making sure the public has some visibility, educating our members and as many folks we can about the process, just so there's good education and transparency all around.
Yeah, and that's why I bring up the horse trading that can go on, agenda for job security, because that's where y'all are going to come back into play, is if someone is sacrificing votes on something that will be on your agenda once the regular session hits. If they're doing that now to make sure that the district stays as close to possible, it's a political process, and we can never take our foot off the gas and keep an eye on it.
Oh, no question about it. And look, it's going to be interesting to watch. For those listening, you don't even have to be in the building. You can watch it on the legislative website. The discussions are going to be fascinating, and there's some pressure here. The congressional maps have to be done before July, which means the courts are going to weigh in. The governor obviously is going to have his say. So there's some particular time pressure on those congressional maps because we have elections this fall.
Yeah, we do. The March elections will happen, and I believe those are the last ones that happen under the current maps, if I'm not mistaken. In the meanwhile, we'll get you dialed back in when it comes time for the regular session. He is Daniel Erspamer, heads up the Pelican Institute. Always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you much.
Anytime. Talk soon.
Absolutely. We absolutely will. The session gets underway today. It will last for 4 hours worth today, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'm sorry, no, it convenes at 5 p.m., excuse me. It will last for 20 days after that. I can't imagine them doing a whole lot today. The way the agenda is supposed to map out, is they're going to look at congressional districts first. Before they get down to the statewide stuff or the in-state stuff, they're supposed to look at the 6 congressional districts first. Population-wise, Louisiana does not lose a congressional district, but how do you divvy up those maps accordingly? Now, if you're looking at creating a second majority-minority district, it doesn't make sense to me. But then again, I'm a Republican, so having 5 out of 6 congresspersons being Republican, I got no problem with that. And B, in a district that is represented by a Republican. So how would you create a different map that looks like that? We've got a ton to talk about with Congressman Troy Carter in our next segment. It is D.C. Current. We'll be talking with Congressman Carter in our next segment. We got a lot to cover, but I got to make sure we hit this at least on some level, as it will affect or could affect his district and it making its way all the way to Baton Rouge. That's coming your way next. Right now, though, we got to check news, traffic, and weather. Right now on Talk 107.3 FM. I gotta use the restroom. The Congressman's good to go. Nice. All right, let's get this in order here. Infrastructure. SCOTUS. That'll dovetail with Black History Month. Do what? And the redistricting session. Yep. What kind of fight they're gearing up for and who the president is looking at. Also, Carrie gets out of school at 1:30.
Imagine if Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase already cement their legacy in the NFL within 2 seasons of them being in.
Crazy, wouldn't it? Open. I'm waiting. We might have a sponsor for it real soon. Yeah. Waiting on 837, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Going to get you an updated forecast in our last segment of the show, giving us as much time as is humanly possible with Congressman Troy Carter, who joins us for D.C. Current. Congressman Carter, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you? Had a little bit of bout with COVID, man. It took me out for a while, so happy to be back, happy and strong.
Glad to have you back. Glad to hear you. You're sounding strong. No frog in the throat. No raspy, leftover, lingering cough or anything like that. How was it this time around?
Well, I got to tell you, I did not have the fortune of having Omicron. I think I had full-fledged Delta. I was out pretty strong with lack of taste and smell, body aches and chills. And, just one of those things that took all the necessary precautions. And fortunately, I had all three of my shots, so it could have been a lot worse than it was. I had the first and second and the booster, so it didn't fare out as bad as it was. But it knocked me out for a while, which I think should tell people the importance of making sure that you take the necessary precautions, because it's no fun.
No, absolutely not. It's interesting you say you feel like it was Delta. Do doctors follow up with that? I mean, do they let you know after the fact?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically determined by symptoms. Most of the people that had Omicron had mild cold-like symptoms.
Right.
In my case, I had, the full gamut of high fever, aches and chills, and I think the capping force was the loss of taste and smell, which has been slow to come back, in fact. I mean, it's just starting to get some of the sensation, but for the most part, almost everything is bland. But at least I'm starting to taste some again. But I'll underscore again, rather people philosophically disagree with taking vaccinations or any of that. That's certainly a personal choice, although I encourage as many people as possible to take all the necessary precautions, be vaccinated, wear a mask. But if you, for whatever reason, opt that you just don't want to take the vaccination, then at a minimum, wear a mask and stay socially distant. It does, in fact, prove to be a way to slow the spread of this dreaded virus.
Yeah, if not the spread, then the overall effects. And you sound good this morning. Glad to have you back up to fighting weight and back in it. Although couldn't be more ill time with Washington Mardi Gras last weekend. I'm sure you probably had to sit out for most of that, huh?
I sat out all of it. Yeah.
Nuts.
I sat out all of it. I made a conscious decision, actually, even before I got COVID, that given the advice of the attending physician of Congress, which is important to note, this physician is the medical counsel for all members of Congress, House and Senate, Republican and Democrat. It's a nonpartisan office, and suggested that the likelihood that spikes would occur, because when you mix partying and alcohol, it sometimes throws inhibition out the window. So those precautions sometimes are challenged.
Yes.
So I made a decision that I would beg off until next year. Lo and behold, the week and a half after that, I contracted COVID. So go figure.
Exactly. In spite of our best efforts.
But so far, it looks like everyone had a grand time, and I'm prayerful that that there won't be a super spread event, that in the next couple of weeks we won't see issues as a result of it. I know the crew does an incredible job of providing, precautionary measures, and looks like they had a fantastic time. We had the outstanding king in Louisiana's Richard Lipsky, and everyone had a very successful reign, and I'm happy about that.
So we had Richard on before he went up there, and it sounded like it was shaping up to be an awesome time, especially having missed the year before. We've got a lot of business to tend to, and all of this kind of ties in with, I don't know if this is going to be themed here, but today is February 1st. It is the beginning of Black History Month. And I'm going to want to talk redistricting session that's going on at our state capitol, and I'm going to want to talk about the Supreme Court. And both of these, I feel, have ties into Black History Month as we start the conversations. Let's start with the Supreme Court of the United States. What are we looking at in the very near future when it comes to who the president will nominate?
Well, the president has made a campaign promise and has made a public declaration that his choice is to appoint an African American female. And it's weird because I heard Senator Cruz give some pushback on that, which I don't understand. If you are trying to balance the racial and gender harmony of the bench, there's nothing wrong to say that, we've noticed that there has never been an African American woman to serve on the Supreme Court. Now, that doesn't mean the president's going to go out and just pick any old garden variety African American woman. It's going to be a African American woman that has the necessary credentials, someone that has been a legal scholar, someone that will demonstrate and bring the intellect, energy, and integrity to the bench. So for some to suggest that somehow, wow, I can't believe he said that. Well, I mean, if you go back, Ronald Reagan many years ago made a declaration he was going to put a woman, and there was no backlash about that because there hadn't been a woman. So I think, in fairness, to make sure that we have the kind of diversity on our bench, there's absolutely nothing wrong with seeking into those areas where historically people have not had a chance to serve.
You got a favorite?
I don't. I really don't. I've not had the pleasure of meeting any of the jurists that are being considered. I have began reading on them and looking at their histories. Some of them have some very, very strong academic backgrounds and legal writings. So I will, in the upcoming days and weeks, be looking carefully at each of them with hope that we get the very best member of the Supreme Court, someone that will come on and provide balance and serve, hopefully, for a very long time. And I think that the notion of balancing the court with an African-American female is abundantly fair, well over time, past time, and I applaud the president for his actions.
Yeah, I don't know where I come down on this simply because I want the best of the best, regardless of everything else. But when it comes to the Supreme Court, it is a collaboration. It is a collaborative effort as well, and within a collaborative effort, you do have to have different perspectives to make sure you find the truth inside the law.
That's right. And listen, the best of the best comes in all races.
No, 100%. Which is why
the best of the best comes in all races. The best of the best comes in all gender. So it's a matter of you can put 20 people in the room and make 10 men, 10 women, 10 white, 10 black, 10 this, that, and you can have equal intellects. And then you choose to make sure that you have a diverse court. With all things being equal, the academic strength and legal prowess comes in all flavors.
It's just, I think where Senator Cruz comes in, and far be it for me to put words in his mouth, but the number one thing should be the best of the best. That should rise above, and that's it. I can't say it out loud without making it sound like I'm saying it can't be, but the number one thing is serving the nation, as opposed to making sure that the demographics. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm stuck.
But Brian, that's a given.
I know.
You're not going to, not to disparage a plumber, but you're not going to get a plumber to be a Supreme Court justice. And there's certain minimal requirements that you have to have, like being a lawyer, like being, the kind of having the kind of ability to be vetted. Remember, this is not something the president unilaterally does. This individual is going to have to be vetted by the United States Senate and the world. It's going to have to go for Senate confirmation. All of their history, their background, their academics, their performance, legally, professionally, socially, all will be played out on a world stage. So this is not going to just be just any old body. This is going to be a superhero, a super legal scholar, as all of our Supreme Court justices are, regardless of what you feel about them personally. Yeah. They all have demonstrated some legal prowess that got them to the point that they could even be considered.
No, absolutely, and the fight is going to be over so much more than that too.
When we think about that, you go back and go through history, and I don't recall, and of course I wasn't around. I was a child like you were, but when Ronald Reagan made his appointment, when he made that declaration, and you can pull the footage now, there was no backlash. There was no outcry. He said he wanted to put a woman because there hadn't been one.
Well, at the same time, though, we lived in a different world than Congressman Carter. There was so much more. Like the
I would say,
collaboration.
Brian, I would challenge that there was more intolerance 30 years ago than there is now.
On a
Tolerance
street
is
level
not-
or a congressional level?
Probably on the street level.
Yeah, I see. I feel like the work between Reagan and Tip O'Neill, you don't see that happen these days because they have to answer to CNN or Fox News, I agree with you and disagree with you at the same time. Is that possible?
It is. It's very possible, and it's acceptable. But I will tell you, the problem that we have with this, we have to answer to CNN and Fox News, takes away from our independence and our willingness to be true Americans. We should not be subject to what the whims of some talking head is going to say about us on the 5 o'clock news, or in this case, 24-hour news.
Yeah.
Americans need to stand up for the principles of right and wrong and doing what's right and not playing to the whims of whoever's on the talking head circuit, rather it's Fox or MSNBC or CNN or anybody else for that matter. It's time that we take bold steps to say, to hell with what the talking heads want us to do. Do what's right.
We got Congressman Troy Carter for exactly 1 more minute. I've got to ask you about infrastructure. What can we expect to see over the next, say, month or so?
Listen, it's really exciting. Infrastructure is rolling. We are so fortunate that the infrastructure bill passed and was signed just a few months ago, but we're seeing rollouts happening in record time, which is very exciting. Meeting with Sean Wilson, Dr. Sean Wilson of DOTD, the projects that are rolling are really, really exciting and strong. Very happy to see that, we see the opportunity for people to access resources. One of the things that's really important is that's a part of the plan that most people didn't realize is because we know that having access to internet is so important now, and many poor people and people of impoverished areas can't afford it. As a part of the infrastructure plan, we've talked about roads and bridges and all that, which is critically important. I'm excited about its rollout. But one thing that has gone without much talk is that there are built in and baked into the infrastructure plan the ability for people to have discounts on their internet bill. People that are in rural areas where it's very difficult, or impoverished areas where people don't have the resources. Yet in 2022, we know that having access to the internet is very important for education, very important for business, for telehealth, and now that people that are on WIC or SNAP will have the opportunity to apply for and get meaningful discounts on their internet bills. So the various components of the infrastructure bill that's rolling out now touches every corner of our state. Well, I was very proud to serve on T&I, Transportation Infrastructure, the House committee that crafted the bill that ultimately passed and went to the Senate. Every part of Louisiana benefits from the infrastructure bill. Republicans, Democrats, and members who voted for it and members who voted against it. People in Louisiana are being lifted up because of this incredible piece of legislation that will fix some 795 bridges that we have in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, I've got a $14 billion backlog when it comes to Dr. Wilson's department, and none of this is his fault. I mean, he inherited the $14 billion backlog and has been managing it the best he can. We understand that roughly $500 million being dedicated within this budget to a new Mississippi River bridge, which I believe will probably end up landing, if not in your district, then near your district. But that's where we're going to have to pick up the conversation next week. In the meanwhile, great to hear you back in good health again, Congressman Troy Carter. I appreciate you hopping on board, sir.
Thank you, brother. Have a great weekend.
You do the same. Absolutely. We will talk to you next week for sure. It's a lot to unpack from that. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll check traffic one more time, and we got to take a look at this forecast as it's going to get nasty real soon. Next on Talk 107.3. Tiffany says I'm still laughing about National Dark Chocolate. So unintentional. Oh, hey, forward this on to Clint, Tiffany, because he would appreciate it for sure. Have you heard anything about we talked about that, pulling Etta Gonzalez to be independent. What? I will find out. You mean independent is informing their own parish? I don't know if that's possible. Where do you go to find out how much the area in which you are has grown? Good information, great show. Thank you, Nina. I appreciate it. Did the census? I went straight to the Census Bureau. Honestly, I had to surf through a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, there's pages upon pages upon pages. As the redistricting session wears on, once they get through the congressional seat stuff, all the individual state house districts are going to come to the forefront. It'll all become public very soon. It's just it's not difficult to find. It's just cumbersome to find via the census. What do we got? What do we got? All right, I got to redo the forecast before we get out of here. Yes. This particular buy, yes, they do. Oh, yeah, actually, every one of them they do.
They do have Louisiana, yeah. They have complete collision, yeah.
Custom Ecology is a leader in the transportation industry. CEI offers a well-trained staff and a family atmosphere. CEI also offers competitive compensation, full benefits, and coach drive circles every night. We welcome drivers of all levels. Apply today at CEI. Visit customecology.com. That's customecology.com. Come be a part of the team at Custom Ecology, a leader in the transportation.
All right, Garrett's tomorrow. I got to find room to get this David Rudolph guy in. The author of American Injustice. Inside stories from the underbelly of the criminal justice system.
That sounds fascinating.
It does. That's why I'll be talking to him.
Fair enough.
Oh, step.
Who, in the index of audio, I guarantee, that like gives us the newscasts and the...
Yes.
They're doing really good, and now all of a sudden...
Oh, wait. LRN. No. The newscasts that you play come from Louisiana Radio Network. The traffic you're hearing right now comes from WBRZ.
They were doing great on everything, but now the second midday newscast, they just decided to say,
It's all good. You can copy the first one twice and then just use the other one as a replacement afterwards.
I don't have a place I gotta be, but I want to record my podcast, and we're talking about,
Well, copy the same one twice. You're good to go. Talk 107.3 FM and Citizens Bank and Trust want to help make 2022 as easy on you as possible by picking up your car payments. Oh, yes. As the price of the pump goes up, we want to send the price of your payment down to zero. We are going to pick up your payments for an entire year and other great prizes like 6 months of free car washes at Benny's Car Wash. Visit talk1073.com. Click on our free car payments for a year sweepstakes to register. It is just that simple, courtesy of Citizens Bank and Trust and Talk 107.3 FM. Later on today, Governor John Bel Edwards is hosting a news conference at 4:30. We will have the audio from that news conference for you throughout the morning. Tomorrow morning, this is going to be an ongoing topic as the headline from The Advocate reads, "Possible Deceit by the Governor in Ronald Greene Death Warrants Attention," according to the House Speaker. The headline from WBRZ, "Facing Pressure from Lawmakers Over State Police Cover-Up, Edwards to Meet with Black Politicians and U.S. Attorneys Try to Help Clear the Air." Governor John Bel Edwards at 4:30 today will hold a press conference to discuss the investigation into the death of Ronald Greene. You're going to start hearing the phrases, what did he know and when did he know it? You're going to hear the phrase, the cover-up is worse than the scandal. I don't. You're going to hear the phrase "where there's smoke, there's fire." I'm not the "where there's smoke, there's fire" guy. I will let this play out and just keep you appraised of things as they develop. It's a tough sell, though. It's a tough sell when you get a text message in May of 2019, and that text message reads, "Early this morning, troopers in Ouachita Parish, troopers attempted to stop a vehicle in Ouachita Parish. The driver fled through 2 parishes in excess of 110 miles an hour, eventually crashing. Troopers attempted to place the driver under arrest, but a violent, lengthy struggle took place. After some time struggling with the suspect, troopers were joined by a Union Parish deputy and were able to take the suspect into custody. EMS was summoned to assess the suspect's injuries. The suspect remained combative, but became unresponsive shortly before EMS arrived." Became unresponsive, and the suspect was later pronounced dead at the hospital. You learn a year and a half later that the suspect that was being talked about was Ronald Green. Where do you go from there? Hey, one quick reminder. Today is National Unclaimed Property Day. While the governor's got a press conference at 4:30, our state treasurer, John Schroeder, has a press conference at 2. February 1st is National Unclaimed Property Day. What's going to be launched at the treasurer's press conference is L.A. Clash. Why do I keep getting that backwards? I keep saying Clash instead of cash.
You got this.
lacashclaim.org. lacashclaim.org. Do you have unclaimed property? You know we've touted the unclaimed property program a number of times, and Treasurer Schroeder are going to be on next Tuesday at 8:15 to talk about it. You ever moved out of an apartment, got a deposit you've forgotten about? The best way to go about finding it is lacashclaim.org. Put your name in there. Process to recover those dollars is incredibly simple. If you find your name on that list, get yourself paid. Speaking of getting paid, went 4-1 on over-unders on college basketball last night.
Let's go.
Yup. Hey, we're supposed to do a weather forecast. It's going to rain for the next 3 days. There's your weather forecast. Fox News Rundown's next.
Protect your retirement. Visit SafeMoneyPlan.net. It's 9 o'clock.
Guys, I don't know what to say about the story with the governor. I know this, though. The dogs that are on the scent are on the scent. The sharks that smell blood in the water smell blood in the water. It's going to get nasty, y'all. It's going to get nasty. And I highly encourage you to follow Speaker Clay Snyder on social media, because what he's got in front of him is no small task, but he's also not going to back away from it. The speaker put out, where's the speaker's statement? Governor Edwards' statement. Where's the speaker's statement, dag blamit? I got the speaker's statement somewhere. The speaker, Schexnayder, did not specify what form of any inquiry they should take. Schexnayder says the legislature is an equal and independent branch of government meant to serve as a check and balance to the other branches. We're fully prepared to use the authority granted to us in the Constitution of the state to be that check and to be that balance. The governor is going to tell you, I don't know what the governor is going to tell you at 4:30. If it mirrors what has already been said, that flies in the face of what the Associated Press has said. And if the Associated Press is going national with a story, like they have with this one, then my guess is they've got a little more in their arsenal than they don't do things willy-nilly. The Associated Press is not clickbait. How about that? Anyway, that's where we're going to have to pick it up tomorrow. Franz Borghardt is going to be on for Legally Served tomorrow. Congressman Garrett Gray is going to take a victory lap on Washington Mardi Gras and talk about a major milestone for the Comey diversion project. And I don't know if Hiller Moore is going to be in the House tomorrow. It's the first Wednesday of the month. He's supposed to be, but we might have to reschedule with Hiller. We'll talk about it all later on. And we'll have the latest on redistricting as well. We'll see if we can't get somebody on to talk about it. And I'm going to circle back with Clay Snyder. I can't imagine a world in which Clay would come on to talk about this right now. Simply because why would you? I mean, if I'm the House Speaker, I'm not playing this out in the media. From a strict, all other things aside, if I'm the House Speaker, I let the governor keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. And as the governor's record grows for talking and talking and talking and let reporters follow up, if I'm the Speaker, you just let the record grow. And then when it comes time to be that check and to be that balance, why would he show his hand before that? He wasn't involved in this text message. He wasn't involved in this investigation. He has absolutely no reason to step up in front of a microphone right now. But you know what? I'll ask anyway. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Later on.